the nature of the human race is that the human race has always believed it's known everything. Even the cavemen thought they had it all figured out, and they knew everything there was to know about everything, because that's where mythology came from. It's constructing some kind of context for the unknown.
It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on.
It's irresistible. He's certainly the coolest, most rock and roll looking god that I have ever seen.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
Hello. I'm joined here by my esteemed book readers, co-book readers. We got Alex, we got Al, Ken, and Max. Hi. And today we will be talking about the second part of Book 6, and there's going to be lots of parts for Book 6. This is covering chapters 63 to 66 inclusive. And wow, 66 has to be one of my favorite chapters in the book. It's just amazing. It details the thumbnail for this stream. So if you haven't seen it, go look at it. It's one of my favorite pieces in the book, pieces of art in the book. What did you guys think of chapters 63 to 66? Let's start with Alex.
Some of the highlights of the whole book for me. That's one of the things I was most look forward to reading was the stuff that we learned about in this section. So, I'll again reiterate, me, you, and Brennan over on the expandinguniverse.com did a podcast on the Filoni television show and what we thought, the good, the bad, and the ugly, And one of the things we mostly got into, or a big thing we got into, was the Mortis arc and how, it has some interesting concepts, but at the end of the day, it's not actually that much. It's like getting frosting instead of a whole cake.
Yeah.
And it promises so much substance, but there's actually nothing there. So having this here to really fill that out really helps make that feel something worthwhile. And everything else too, with the Killix and the more of the the Dark Nest.
Yeah.
And everything with the second Battle of Endor and everything was just super interesting to read about. So I love these sections.
I totally agree with you. How about you, Al? What did you think?
So I don't have nearly as much of a connection to like Fate of the Jedi or to Dark Nest. So these sections, while excellent as always, were just sort of more sections to me. I will say, I despise the Mortis stuff, and this was quite good, even for someone who does not like any of the Mortis stuff at all. So, great stuff. Loved it.
All right, Ken.
All right. As someone who has read Dark Nest and Fate of the Jedi, this stuff was really good, and it weaves together in a way that just ties it up in a nice little bow. And so it was just really good. I loved it.
That's awesome. And Max, how about you? I know you're super excited. I could see you brimming with excitement.
I'm very excited, and I love these parts. Chapter 66 is probably like one of my favorites of all in this whole book. And I love Fate of the Jedi very, very much. It's probably my second favorite series after New Jedi Order. So all of this is so good. It's so good, and I love it.
Yeah.
And there's just so much here, and I took down so many notes. And there's so many very pleasant surprises and really cool little connections. And it's so good, and I can't wait to talk about it. And I had so much fun reading this part.
That's great. Yeah, I know. I remember before the book even came out, like Alex said, I was really looking forward to getting to this part. And I knew, Max, because you're such a big fan of Fate of the Jedi, that you would have probably loved this part as well. And lo and behold, you did.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a mini rant to go on later, but we'll save it till we actually get to chapter 66.
Also, the artwork in this is my favorite piece of Star Wars artwork ever.
For sure.
And also, if I sound sniffly or congested, I'm kind of just getting over a cold. So Don't worry about that.
Hey, no worries. I may be coming down with one, so whatever you have is just transferred to me now.
He's getting sick.
Yeah,
It's
tis the
that time of
season.
year.
Yeah. Let's look at some of the comments. Max, I'm sorry I left you hanging out in the lobby while you were waiting for me to
The
bring you onto the
Killings
stream.
didn't
Yeah. Oh, what a low blow. Poor Callista. Hello, Jade. Good to see you, man. Yeah, almost there. 400 subs. Almost there. I think I need 5 or 6 more, or something like that. So yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see. I have something planned. I'm going to release the Despotica Part 1 audio narration of it when I get to 400
Ooh.
subs. I recorded it months ago. I just have to edit it, but it's like a beast to edit. So if I get there, I will release it within a couple weeks. Hello there. So yeah, I mean, we can get right into it. Chapter 63 starts, I believe, page 652, and it starts with Thargoragrat, who is the sole and remaining, as we talked about last time, the sole and remaining offspring of the architects, and she's making a bid for power. And we find out that I was kind of I knew that this was mentioned earlier, that the Killiks were one of the firstborn races, but I had kind of forgotten about it. And I just came to associate every single bug in the book with Gorog.
Gorog.
And then this reminds you that the Killiks are actually not part of her nest. They are a precursor race.
And then she says she hated the Killiks more than any other elder race in the galaxy.
That's right. I think that's so interesting. And we learn a bit more about Soros on page 653. So he has his own part of the dark nest called the Black Hive of Soros. And Lord Soros is, of course, that Killik Sith that we talked about last time. That's mentioned, I think, in Star Wars Gamer number 9. We showed pictures of him last time, and so now he's more of a prominent figure in Gorog's court. He's the Night Herald, as we call him. So yeah, I mean, I thought this entire area of the book was very interesting. 653 and 652, how they talk about Gorog, and then she makes we found out last time that she takes Eartha, which is one of the Earth worlds. I think it was the first Earth world.
Yep.
And moves it to Illithurian. And on page 654, we find out it's called The Story of Hath Khalid Sud, and how basically he tricks the Osirians to going to Eartha. And this brings us back to the beginning of the book, because when Arhul Hextrophon, I believe in book 1, is looking for the Osirians, that's what leads them to other space, to Eartha, because that's where they go, right? And they're kind of tricked to go there to begin their work of restoration, we're told, because as we found out last time, Eartha is an irradiated wasteland.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting, actually, how we get like sort of snippets of what's going on in this final cosmic war, the Twilight War. On page 653, there was a line that says, while some maintain a policy of isolation or defense, a larger number went to meet their adversaries head on, surprising them with the vast technological constructs that were the engines of defense. And wherever war came, so too did the fell worms of El Shadem emerge to devour the living and dying on all sides, feeding off the negative energies of suffering and strife, and so did the wills cry out in anguish.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good that they were in English, but it's just great writing.
Liar, she's a Sith.
They also say that Soros is the Joiner King. That's like the first, like basically like the first one.
That was really interesting because
That's really cool.
Without getting into spoilers for those who haven't read the Dark Nest trilogy, it does heavily involve the Killiks.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting that it talks about them being hated here, because it seems like a lot of them can't get corrupted, which is all I'll say is that's not exactly the same in the Dark Nest trilogy. And it's a different thing. It's not as crazy as this is. It's a lot lesser scale of that. Yeah. But it still brings more context and meaning to the stuff it talks about in there because of this. That now, it's like, here's like a lower version of that. It's kind of like when you watch Lord of the Rings and Samwise Gamgee fights the big giant spider, and you're like, oh, that's a little baby. That's a baby compared to the big giant spider in the Silmarillion. So
that's right. which there's always a bigger fish. Is what I would say about that.
There is indeed always a bigger fish.
For me, this whole part was interesting because I've always disliked the Dark Nest trilogy, and I'm not like a Denning hater by any stretch of the imagination. Like I enjoyed Legacy of the Force. I enjoy all of his D&D stuff. So I think just coming off of NJO when I read Dark Nest, it just didn't click with me. But now I'm interested to go back and read the Dark Nest trilogy
with this context,
right, and see how it or whether that enhances the experience for me or makes it a bit more palatable. Dark Nest it's just a hard shift, I think, from NJO.
Yeah. I love Dark Nest. I remember like when I was reading it for the first time and like people were like talking, like I had heard people who hated it, who shall remain nameless. And I was just like, why do people hate this? Like, obviously it's not perfect, but like, I love those books. They were so much fun.
Well, that's another thing, right? Like we went through this whole dark 19-book epic, and this is this big scale conflict. So the Dark Nest trilogy is a lot less of that. It's more of a Bantam era, supposed to be fun adventure. And in between that, you also have stuff there where, there's the intrigue of, there was 6 years that have passed since the last story we just read, Unifying Force. Now we're at this point. Jason comes back because he was apparently gone for 6 years, didn't talk to anybody. He's acting a little bit different. This is paving the way to make Legacy of the Force more palatable for you. And then also explores, because it's in this weird transition where it's not Legacy of the Force, but it's not.
It's like right on the verge of it.
So it feels like a kind of like a crossing over from here's New Order, let's switch it to this direction.
It's a bridging story, right? I mean that's not its only function, right? Like it's its own story, but it really is a bridging story. Although I will say the stakes are pretty high as I remember them. I mean, it's been
the Chiss get involved, and the New Republic, or not the Galactic Alliance gets involved, and the whole Killix thing makes it a conflict amongst these different factions, but still feels like to me like something that you'd see in the Bantam era with like the Black Fleet Crisis or something, where it's this big conflict, but at the end of the day, everything's gonna be fine by the end.
So Alex, you're reading this right now in your rereads?
No, I'm on Unifying Force. I'll be reading Dark Nest real soon.
Okay.
Because I'm also trying to read 2 Star Trek Discovery books currently, so I'm working my way through everything.
I think I got confused because Matt Wilkins is now putting out the Dark Nest trilogy videos.
My reviews are a bit longer though, so I'm taking my time with uploading those, and I also record them way ahead of time, whereas he just like does like 10-minute videos on all of them. So.
He definitely pumps them out, much to his credit. So I mean, we on page 654, it's called Signals. This section of Chapter 63, it says the Dark Nest had summoned numerous allies to the cause, and the hunters of the Night Spirit had found a race to heal Eartha, that of course being that story of Hath-Khalid's suit and the Osarians, which would soon afford her the ultimate weapon. She wants that Infinity Gate on Eartha. The time had come, gnashing her mandibles and scraping her many claws. Thargoragrat sent out the signal that marked the start of the Twilight Wars. So now we're in the thick of it.
Yes, we are.
Right in the thick of it.
And on page 655, we learn a bit more about the Black Hives, which serve as the first massive wave of her forces sort of pouring out into the galaxy and causing conflict. And I think these hives, if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of them come from SWTOR, because I remember the Alderaan missions, right? There's Killix on Alderaan in SWTOR.
Are there actually?
Yeah.
Because I only know the main plot of every single section of the game. I have not seen all the side quests, so that's crazy.
Yeah, there's Killix, and I think there's Dark Nest Killix in SWTOR. So there's Soros, Ruhr, Kitinatik, Talunalat, and Ukunuku, and those are the different Black Hives. And we're told that they get sent to Alsakin, Alderaan, so there would be the SWTOR connection, Corellia, and others. It says the Killix rallied in opposition to the dreaded Joiner King, surging in battle formations to stamp out the source, Lord Soros and the warlocks of Muzara, and their primary target was the heart of the Sith power on Korriban itself. And we're told that the hordes of Soros were a terrible and overwhelming force that included trained Masasi warriors, Chlor slugs, the Night Herald's newly reanimated Sither. So this guy, he has like the full power of the Sith as we know them in this era. Supernatural encounters behind him.
Damn.
It's like I would love to see this visually represented, not necessarily just in an art piece, but in like animation or something like that.
That would be so cool.
Just seeing the cosmic wars. I mean, like it would be mind bending, and probably you couldn't really do it justice, but just to see these massive hordes of Sith and Killiks fighting one another, because the Killiks, of course, are not with Gorog, right? They're a precursor race, and so they're still. I don't know if they're actually keeping faith with the Celestials, but at the very least, they're opposed to Gorog.
They're chilling.
Right. Okay. Thank
They're
you.
chilling.
And good to see you. Yeah, Nuka has a Killik note on Night Herald. It all comes together.
It just fits. It all works.
And then on the bottom of page 655, we have a ton of Dark Nest lore.
Let's go.
It kind of sets up the Dark Nest trilogy because we're told that the Killiks who'd been exposed found that they, exposed to these evil forces, found they no longer had control over their hive mind abilities, which now subsumed any and all who drew too near to them. I believe that this was the concern in the Dark Nest trilogy. That
without getting too much into spoilers, the broad strokes is that because they don't only have control over it, kind of like anybody who comes near them, kind of just like start. It's not that they're bad guys, or some of them are. That's getting into spoilers, so we'll get into that. But Killiks are just Killiks, and a lot of them they're just themselves. They're just their insect-minded stuff. And so when the Jedi get close to them, like the young Jedi Knights and stuff, like Jaina and stuff, they kind of like start being able to hear their thoughts and stuff. And it comes this whole thing where they want to help protect the Killiks and everything because they're like a hive mind. And so now it's like, are the Jedi, are they focusing on, what they need to be doing, or are they being corrupted by the hive mind or whatever? So that's the whole basic conflict of it. And then the Chits and everyone else is getting involved with it. So.
Right. Yeah, it says here the Thurut Hive, who for the good of the galaxy were forced into isolation and when hiding in the unknown regions, which sets things up for the Dark Nest trilogy. Sorry, Max, go ahead.
No, it's okay. But we see that like the ones like aid the Killiks as well, like in their fight against the Sith.
Yes, it says at the bottom, it says, though the Killik crisis had ended, a faction of the Black Hive of Soros hit on Alderaan when the ones arrived, and so had gone unnoticed in the melee. Oh, sorry, before that, I think they got involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, where is it? Yeah, it says the ones would not allow the galaxy to become joined to the hive mind of the Night Herald and his Night Queen. They came now to the Killik's aid, calling forth defenders to smash the Sith on Talon and other besieged worlds.
That's so cool. And hey, Naso, good to see you, man. To answer your question, Sano Sorrow, I don't know. That's what, like a character from the prequel era, I think, right? So I think we haven't gotten there yet. We're still in prehistory. We're still like
pre-Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah, pre-Dawn of the Jedi. But we're coming ever closer to it. Like all the pieces are kind of lining up now to fall into place.
He's just joking.
Oh, well, you never know, man. It could be.
They do get a direct
is hard to
name
know.
mention of Raynar, so that's cool.
That's right.
Oh,
a segment of Ukunuku went on to become Unu, which eventually became the Dark Nest under Raynar Thal. So there you go.
Yeah. Not too much of a spoiler there, but yes, Raynar Thal's not dead after Star by Star. That's all
right.
I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. And when, I mean, you're probably not going to be around for it, but when we get to chapter 66 at the end of the stream, like that is just that the lore implications are devastating. It's amazing. Then we have, starting on page 656, we have what I would call you definitely got to get him to read more of it. But on page 656 onwards, we have what I would call a thorough account, purportedly thorough account of the Twilight Wars. Hello, Darth Sidious. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So essentially, it says to quickly coordinate defense for the vulnerable races, New alliances were forged by worlds that had capable warriors or advanced technology, and even those not as proficient in these areas showed a desire to provide aid. This is but a sampling. And then the book proceeds to go through 6 or 7 planets with the letter A. And I think it ends, I believe, I want to say on, let me see, page 663. So it's, a bunch of pages, but it says additional entries cut for time, AH, which would be, of course, Arhul Hextrophon. So you get the sense that there was going to be an alphabetical listing of all the races or planets and what they were doing during the Twilight Wars. And what's interesting, I was reading one of the end notes, is that it kind of leaves the door open for future supernatural encounters lore, or
for other people to do.
For other people, or even for Joe to come back if he wants to write, more entries in that in that chapter, essentially, right? Because it's like cut for time. But that tells me that that there's more out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're going to go through all of it as best as we can, but was there any specific story or planet in this section that stood out to anyone?
There was a funny joke in one of them.
Okay, wait. We'll start with Ken, then Max, then Al.
So the first one below the introduction, Akira, is a reference to the movie Battle Beyond the Stars. So I thought that was interesting.
Oh wow, I would not have known that. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it also referenced the Kaibak, right? Again.
Yeah, the Kaibak, and then you have the what's it called?
The Malmori Empire.
Yeah.
Is that what you were looking for?
It's the weapon that is mentioned in one of the earlier chapters, but the weapon they use to destroy planets. I don't think they mention it here.
Is it called the Stellar Converter?
Yeah, Stellar Converter. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the first planet that we start with is Akir, but even before then, it says, I just want to read, actually, Ken, maybe you can read it for at the beginning of section 2, the first paragraph.
All right. Alliances sometimes made for strange bedfellows. The world of Akir had help in the form of a Valkyrian warrior from Tiran, a cloned Nestor, a smuggler from Terra 2, a wanted assassin from Noskosto, and the sole remaining Lazuli. Their job was no simple one, to protect Akir from the Eli mutants of the Malmori Empire. This would have been difficult enough, but the wicked Malmori people yet wielded the Stellar Converter that had been sold to them by the now extinct Kaibak, by which means they had already destroyed the proud Chital people.
I didn't want to stop you, but I meant the very first paragraph at the beginning of section 2, so above Akir.
Well, I'll read that too. The Twilight Wars be the last of the etheric wars, fought between the magnificent agents of Etherion and the great defenders of Skyriver, who arose in opposition to them. It differed from the earlier conflicts in that it was not limited to opposing sides. Cruel races fought one another for supremacy. Where one fell, another rose to take its place. Principalities that had grown powerful in their respective worlds now reared up in aggregation with the spawn of the Old One, the acolytes of the Eldritch Ones, and all the cravers of the Dominion, Ultraists, and Seekers after death.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, now we're in the thick of it, the last of the 3 cosmic wars, and at this point, there's not really like any gods involved or demigods, right? It's really just against kind of the agents of evil and the agents of good. Hello,
They're kind of
Kyle.
just wars. Oh,
Hi.
Yeah, good to see you, Kyle.
Kyle.
And do you prefer Killix or Squibs? That's a tough question.
Killix.
Can I say
I don't-
neither?
squibs.
I
had to
honestly,
choose
I
Squibs.
don't understand the hate for
Squibs.
squibs. They're not
Hey, look.
amazing, but they're not horrible either. They're just a little funny group. I mean, everybody here likes Ewoks, okay?
They're just silly
Yeah.
little
Squibs are
guys.
just
Lovely.
like that.
I would say
blue.
Squibs,
Killix
though,
are
yeah.
bugs, therefore gross.
Yeah, I
Killix.
would say Killix kind of creep me out, so I'm gonna go with
I'll take the
Squibs.
Killix. I'll be on
Um,
Denning's side here.
We drink some Black Ambrosia,
They're
BRB.
both Denning, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are
Aren't
both
squibs
Denning.
from Denning?
Yeah.
Yeah, the tattoos
Yeah,
ghosts
Tatooine
at
ghosts.
the
So
when they
either,
first show up.
either way, you're on Denning's side.
Yeah.
Well, see, there you go.
Denning, I mean,
Denning,
he
cool.
wrote. He
It'd be
wrote,
fun to hug a squid, but it wouldn't be to hug a killick.
He
Hey,
wrote
you
one of
don't
the
know that.
Galaxy Guides,
They
right?
rub
So, like,
their like little
Yeah, he
tentacles
did.
together.
I just imagine a bug is
four
not
horns.
very fun to hug.
No, that's why they rub forearms together.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rub
Oh,
forearms and
okay.
make funny
And they go-
noises
I'm
together.
getting the raid.
And
I'm
they,
getting the raid.
Getting-
No more killicks.
and they
Yeah.
go.
They dance.
Make
They
weird
dance. They
noises.
have raves and stuff.
But they're gonna help you against the darkness. You're gonna
They're
spray
getting
them.
raided.
They're-
Yeah.
okay.
They're gross.
I'm with
Raves.
Al on this
Gross.
one. Yeah, I'm with Al.
I think you guys are
I've
just
had
Squids are
racist.
double crossing people, though. They're double crossers.
I'd
Yeah,
rather
that's
get double
squid.
crossed than subsumed into a hive mind.
Hey,
I think
where's the
That's
you're
pretty
just,
bad.
There you go.
I think you're just racist.
Wow.
Um,
Listen, I got dive bombed. Do you guys have stink bugs where you live? Please tell me you do that. I'm
Yeah,
I
not-
think so.
yeah,
Those guys are like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I got dive bombed the other day. So I am on a bug rampage. Every time I see a stink bug in my house, it goes directly in the toilet.
I mean, if you see a spider, I'm all for it.
Oh no, I hate those guys.
Spiders
They-
are good
they
because
can-
they sort of eat other insects.
No,
and
no
all-
mercy.
Okay.
No
well,
mercy. Cobra Kai.
they're all living creatures. You monsters.
Oh well.
You're a cuck.
Yeah,
we're gonna live too.
okay.
So
I saw
moving
that,
moving on to the next entry,
hold on,
Alishan.
hold on.
Okay.
No, wait. Hold on.
You
Sorry.
want to talk about Akir some more?
No. I just want to say that it says the Twilight Wars lasted 10,000 years, so that's like
Yes.
crazy. So it's like every
Yes.
other war will last like 3 years for like the Clone Wars or something.
5 years for the Vong War.
Yeah, and then
New
here they
system
are
was
fighting for
1,000.
10,000 years. It's like, oh my
That
god.
beats even beats Halo, another franchise. They got 30
Yeah.
years. But,
10,000 years. That's a long war.
The
yeah.
one I'm waiting
We
to
got
talk
a
about
million. We got a million wars. 4 million years.
100,000
4
years.
million years. Let's go. We
the,
win.
the planet I'm waiting
we
to
lose.
talk about is Anura. That's the
Okay,
one I'm
we'll
looking
we'll get there. But I did want to talk about Alishan because we had talked about it earlier in one of the earlier streams. No, I don't want to see how
No.
adorable it is.
Destroy it, kill it with fire.
Okay. I'm more of like a live and let live, but that's fair too.
No, murder.
If it's outside, it can live. If it's in my room, it's dead.
No,
That's my-
automatically.
That's my
Automatically.
philosophy.
So we had talked about Alishan earlier in one of the previous streams. I think probably like maybe I'm guessing between episodes 5 or 7 of this book club. But there's a guardian. The guardian of forever lives on Alishan, right? The Amon Lith. We're told, and it says, few besides the Alishanians knew that Amon Lith was no mere construct, but the father of the elementals in Sky River. And the elementals, I think, like live inside the planet cores, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, right? Like they're sort of, yeah. There's like elementals inside the planets. He had chosen to dwell on Alishan and was there when the destructive blast of Notron came. It was said, and of course that came when Notron basically destroys Alishan, which makes everybody hates the humans even more. It was said to have driven him mad, for in its wake he'd allowed himself to be augmented by the yet formidable Alishanians, so as to become a being immeasurable in cunning and power. That sounds terrifying. And the cool thing about Alishan, or I guess the terrifying thing, it sounds like an episode of Black Mirror. They basically upload all of their consciousness into like a cloud, essentially, right? Yeah, and then
Doctor Who
Yeah.
season 8.
um
I won't give context because it's spoilers. But
No.
sorry, what did you say? What season 8?
I said Doctor Who season 8.
Doctor Who. Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
There's also I'm gonna bring up Destiny here, the game, because
Oh.
there's something very similar to this in one of the more recent DLCs. It's the Lightfall DLC where you go to, what is it, Neptune? I think, is it Neptune? Yeah, and then like
I
there
don't
are
remember
basically
what that is.
AI people like there, like they've uploaded themselves to like this central computer there, in the city. I forgot the name of it, but the DLC was really mid. It
The
was
problem
really
with Destiny is that they delete their DLCs and expansions.
Yeah.
And they don't tell you, so you then
was
you
just
just content
really
missing
big.
for eternity. So,
It was really
That's crazy.
good.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
fans got upset, but they don't care.
It was just a mid DLC, but the soundtrack was great. But yeah, so there was like a there's like a central like computer in the city, and then like there would be like people in the city that are like AI people in a way, and then like they're like quest givers, so they'll just kind of appear, like they'll materialize and they're like, hey, can you do this for me? So that's when I read this, that's what that made me think of, was just because it's like AI people uploading their consciousness to like this central mind. So
Yeah, and we're told for Alishan that didn't really work for everybody. There were some people who kind of went mad through the process.
yeah.
And when they discard their individuality, which sounds kind of terrifying in and of itself, and merge into a single Alishanian collective, there were pockets of resistance. People like didn't want to join this program. It says, for the good of the collective, it was deemed that those trouble spots had to be humanely euthanized. But in so attempting this, a kind of cognitive dissonance arose in the Alishanian collective, and with its mind stretched and stressed, it eventually went mad. As war spread across their simulated landscapes, monsters emerged out of resistance fighters. The Alishanian god became a devil, and their virtual heaven soured into a virtual hell.
Oof. That might be my favorite passage in this session that we've read for.
Yeah,
Isn't
that was
there,
really, yeah, I really like
isn't
that.
there a thing in Marvel, like the Marvel world, not like Star Wars Marvel comics? Like, isn't there a thing called the Collective, like in the comics or something? I swear I've heard that before.
Right.
I think you're right. I'm not as much of a Marvel person as I am
Me
DC,
neither.
so I only vaguely know.
I know Spider-Man, and that's it.
Yeah, I
Also
just feel like I've
Star
heard
Trek,
it
man.
somewhere.
And of course, Marvel 77 you've read too, Alex.
I have read Marvel 77, and that a lot of stuff gets brought up in SC about that. I think some in these chapters, if I remember. Oh, I don't know if we've gotten there yet. So but the Toph or whatever get mentioned, and they were like a last minute villain.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about the Toph.
Yeah, so I'll drop that for now.
Yeah, it's coming up in this section. Right now we're on Ankh, was the next planet after Alashan that was mentioned.
This has a great comedic beat that I really that made me laugh out loud.
So what is it? This is what you were referring to earlier. Why don't you tell us?
Yeah. Do you want me to read up here?
Sure.
Yes.
Here, I'm gonna start midway through the paragraph, so this doesn't take forever. The call to arms by the Night Queen was the catalyst for the Ankh's ruling Triarch to unite their peoples, not for the old ones, but against them, declaring war upon those they had blamed for all their troubles. It did not go well for them, and their civilization was ravaged. That got me.
Yeah, had it not been for their scientists who succeeded in an area few before them had, they'd have perished. Now they called up the elementals to fight on their behalf. There's also a very interesting Tuckerization here. We saw Kyle earlier, Kyle Rawling. There is a Pharaon Raw Keeling, which I think is a Tuckerization of Kyle Rawling in this section of Ankh on page 658. We're told that with organometallic armor that could be shaped and reshaped at will, the fire elementals agreed to lead Ankh against their ancient masters. In preparation, the creatures reshaped themselves into figures that mimic the ancient gods. For this reason, they came to be worshipped, or later came to be worshipped, as star gods. But whether from madness or hubris, the ardent fire elementals turned as cruel as their opponents. We often see that kind of narrative beat, like they become the very thing they swore to destroy, etc., etc. Yeah. Not everyone likes spiders. We offer.
Also, Nazo. I have to mention. Supernatural encounters, but also, what's that on your profile picture? Oh, that's right, that's Garrus from Mass Effect. Did you forget Edie and or Legion? What's your beef, man? I think you are vastly incorrect. I think Mass Effect proves that machines have souls, and SC definitely proves it, if not the entire expanded universe. So.
Supernatural encounters literally prove it.
I'll take you up on that Geth debate for another time. I'll take you up on that, because I have some thoughts about that.
Okay.
I think I'd rather argue with like the Father of Shadows than argue with Alex on something.
I'm game.
I think there was a Mass Effect reference in this section.
Turian and Solarians have been mentioned already in the book. So...
No, I think there was a Mass Effect.
How could I have missed this? There's no way.
How are you going to tell me that R2 is circuits and wires? That
yes, we're gonna get to it, Alex. On page 662, Arakan. Actually, you know what? We're skipping. We're pausing Ankh. We're gonna come back to Ankh. We're skipping ahead to Arakan. So it says To better thwart the enemy, the faithful Arak called upon the Celestials to request that they be diminished. So they wanted to be reduced to like ships, essentially. Leviathan class transports. They're hybrid biomechanoid vessels. But it says the one Arak faction that declined to be altered departed instead for Masula, where they sought to break the cycle of war between its organic and synthetic life forms by creating a robotic intelligence charged with preserving life. Right? But preserving self-destructive life forms was a contradiction that drove it to madness. So instead, taking inspiration from the Arak, the intelligence created a race of biomechanical starships that would preserve life by scooping up sapient life forms and converting them into biomass to create more Reapers. They then departed into the void to slumber before, beginning a new cycle of purges that continued until humans from Arth united Masula against them. Dude, Reapers and cycle of purges.
It has to be a reference to that. And I love it because I love Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. Did you not notice that your first time around?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
I can't believe I missed that.
And the footnote says, though fashioned in replica of Sol, Arth was established after the outbreak of the Empyrean Wars, and so it's not a traditional Earth world. We have some just circuits and wires.
Heartless bastard. Edie and Joker are adorable. How could you say such things?
Okay, this is a PG stream. No swearing.
I'll take Edie, but the guest, no flashlight heads in my house. I don't think so.
I can't wait till he reads the interlude with R2 and 3PO in this book.
Yeah.
The NGO does it. You don't even need supernatural encounters.
Nazo, just go ahead and read the second interlude in Supernatural Encounters. It's like 4 pages, and you won't be spoiling anything. And then come back.
But yeah, no. New Jedi Order already does this with freaking 3PO feeling sad about stuff and contemplating it.
That's right.
Great sapiens.
Okay, wait. We're gonna go back to the Star Gods of Ankh on page 659. So it says the Star Gods and armies of Ankh terrified the myriad of inhabitants of Illithurian. So they actually took the fight to Illithurian. The Triarch's victory was at hand when they decided the time had come to get out from under the yoke of the Star Gods. Based on the workings of the ancient angle snares, their scientists had fashioned in secret shards. Inside of each was a tiny pocket dimension into which the fire elementals were lured and trapped. See, we see this again, like they're kind of trapped in crystals or what have you. In a rare moment of farsight before the Sephi and other elder races could then turn on them, as the Ankh knew they intended, the Triarch ordered their people to hibernate in deep underground catacombs upon numerous tomb worlds, many of which remain unknown, save for a few such as Ankela, which later became Iktoch, and Kuril and Nekrigor, places from which they would later emerge after they had been long forgotten. Calling themselves the Nekrin, they would go forth to take back the stars. Is that like a Warhammer reference?
I don't know. I don't know nothing about Warhammer.
It's the second interlude, Nazo. It's literally called like interlude number 2. You can find it in the
your page number.
Yeah.
I can get there.
World of Warcraft.
Where is this from?
Filthy Frank. It's a YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. Jeez.
That's like midway through me in high school. So
yeah, that's like not a thing anymore because now he's Joji, a serious singer. And then when girls go, I love Joji. I'm like, did you know that he used to be this insane man on the internet that did crazy things? And like, what? Yeah. That's not the same guy. I'm like, yes, it is the same guy.
I'm sure I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes,
look up Filthy Frank later.
It starts on page 479.
Wow, we've come a long way since then, and yet we still have so much of this book to go. So I was just wondering about Ankh, because like there's this whole focus on death, and of course the Ankh itself is a symbol of immortal life in the Egyptian, sort of ancient Egyptian religion, right? Yeah. Just curious if there was any like symbolism there or connection. I don't know if there was. It just kind of struck me as I was reading through it.
It didn't. I did catch the Ankh thing, but
you didn't ascribe it to
I couldn't tell if it was. Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was like a reference to something else, or if there was a planet in Star Wars called Ankh or anything like that.
Right, there might be.
I looked it up. The Nekrin thing comes from World of Warcraft, apparently. I don't play that.
I thought it might have been like Warhammer, but here, let me see Ankh Star Wars if there is a. Well, there's a world called Onkurl, which I think I don't want to say it's the same thing.
It's mentioned here.
Oh, that's woohoo! That's a canon world, so probably not. Canon, we don't need their kind. I'm just kidding. Not because we're in Sky River, which is the Legends universe. That's why.
Take the sensitive ass back to canon.
Wow. We also get an interesting segue on page 659 to Anura.
Ooh, I love
this
one.
planet. Yeah, with the United Animal Federation.
Let's go.
Paw Patrol.
The evolution of Paw Patrol.
Alex.
For a second there,
It's
I
all connected.
legitimately thought it was going to be a Mario reference. When they mentioned the
Toad
Toad
Empire, I
Kingdom, I was
know.
like, oh my God. I was
The
like,
toads, though, I love
Toad
it.
Empire.
we going with Mario? Because if so, that's awesome. No, unfortunately.
So I guess
maybe
Italians are aliens.
But the United Animal Federation is formed by Andor Selesny. So he's
someone's gonna
Ted
clip
Jackson,
clip
Rabbit.
that, Alex, and use that against you one day.
They probably will.
It's going to be me.
Fine,
The-
Be
no.
right now.
The toad
Well, he
like
just Mario in another planet, you know. It's funny.
Italian aliens, who knows?
all right, let's
It's
put
the
a
me.
let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it.
Pin.
Weren't we talking about Gabagool in one of the earlier streams or
Gabagool.
something like
Yeah, you said something about Gabagool.
but we're told the toad-like Chanchu of Anura were harmless people ruled by a lazy, vain, and materialistic cabal who developed a centralized and complex computer system to run their world until it
What?
gained sapience and became racist. In the xenophobic spirit and banished its creators. So the United Animal Federation rose against the attacked the capital of Anura, destroying the complex computer and forever breaking the hold on its Chanchu thralls.
I don't think this is Paw Patrol. I think this is like Zootopia or something.
Zootopia.
Paw Patrol
Oh my
turns
God.
into Zootopia. It's all connected.
No.
But did you see this reference? How a small faction of the Chanchu foolishly salvaged the core of the AI in an attempt to rebuild the empire, only to fall through a wormhole to Hyperion, the Disney universe, where the
Yeah,
intelligence
I
betrayed
noticed
them for a wily newt-like race. I was wondering if that was a reference to something. I don't know.
I tried to think of that as well, and I couldn't think of anything.
I'm searching
But,
up Chanchu Star Wars, but nothing really comes up.
I also like the Animal Federation had like squibs, it had Cantrosians, it had Schistovanans, which are the wolf people, like wolf.
That's right.
man.
Yeah, we didn't say who actually made it up.
Yeah.
And Chubbits.
Leppy?
Chubbits, yeah, but it was this Leppy who made it. His name was Andorf. And then it also has the
Cassian Andorf.
yeah. It says
Cassian
an
Andorf.
alliance that came to include representatives of more timid races such as the fox-like Amaran of Amar, the raccoon-like Procyon of Lar, the duck-like Canopus of Canopus 3, the Caracara-like Tessari of Tessaric, and the two-armed variety of Ardinians. So Ardinians are actually in Solo's Star Wars story, but they're the four-armed variant. The character played by Jon Favreau.
Is that the pilot of the ship?
Yeah, his name's Rio. He's got four arms, so he's
I know Rio. He's part of the crew.
He
Dang,
dies.
Disney kind of ripping off Ben 10.
He dies in the movie, but he's an
Worst
Ardinian.
line ever
So,
in any
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, man. It's all good. You're
No, I'm just messing with you. I don't care. I don't know where I'd stand if droids actually existed, so that'd be a more complex discussion. But I think in fiction, there's a bit more evidence that they would be.
Hey man, we might be there soon. I don't know. They said I read an article the other day that was like humanity is going to be extinct by 2030 because of AI, and I was like, oh, okay, perfect.
Hey,
well,
this
we should
is-
be finished We should be finished Superliterary Encounters by then. So
Then the droids can watch this in the future as like an archive, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, okay, well, some of the humans weren't bigots, and maybe they'll let humans live because of people like some of us. Whereas the
didn't
other
you
ones,
just call Italians aliens or something like that?
that was a joke. They all understand
Wow,
humor.
all of these guys are cool except Alex. I'm gonna say.
This is why I'm always.
He is
polite
racist
to,
against Italians.
This is why I'm always polite to Siri on my phone. I always say please and thank you to her so that like she doesn't come alive one day and murder me.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna get stabbed like in Ex
I know.
Machina or something.
So I always say please and thank you to Siri on my phone.
I'm sure that'll make the difference.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it will. So like y'all are gonna get
Gotta
murdered
teach the
by
droids
Siri.
compassion. They'll
Exactly.
save you.
Like
So
they're not
yeah,
all bad.
we return to another planet, which I think we spoke about previously, the Arbrans on Arbra, and how they had asked Gorog to remove the Sith from their world in exchange for the Crystal Rider.
Arbra. Yes.
Yes.
That's
Arbro.
the rest
Arbro.
last
Bruh.
base
Our blood.
in the Marvel comics.
Our
until
blood.
then.
Right.
That's
They
right.
go
That's
back,
right.
don't they? Maybe not. I
I
don't
just
remember.
said our blood.
Maybe.
Our blood.
Mazzo.
Our blood.
Our blood, our
So
bra.
the Arbrans don't want to fight for Gorog anymore, right? It's just,
Well, who would?
but they said neither would their pride allow them to seek aid from the elder races whom they turned away from so long ago. And they have this like little exchange here on page 660. It says, "If only we could appeal to the Celestials or even one of our firstborn siblings," Sodon Valentis lamented. "Thenceforth, we'd be invited to the safety of the realm." And then this guy, Male Rentek, says, "We proved disloyal. Our corrupted nature remains an impediment to entering the unseen realm." And we've seen that before in the narrative, right? Essentially, if they're corrupted in some way and they haven't really been redeemed in any way, and they can't enter, the unseen realm, as I've been calling it, rather simplistically, Star Wars heaven.
Yeah.
The Hoojibs may not enter heaven.
No, they're not allowed to.
No.
But I'll say
Wait, the Hoojibs are different. Never mind. No, the Hoojibs are fine. Never mind. No, they're good. Arbrans.
Matt would disagree.
Nazo just like laying on the
I'll say
existentialism and philosophy here.
it depends on the universe in which we're deriving. If it's Star Wars, I don't think that's true, because I think that the supernatural encounters is established like that. The Supreme Maker could put a soul into like a droid theoretically, so that they could go to a heaven. Other franchises where it's supposed to be, all atheistic, there is no afterlife. That's a different story. But
why did you program me to feel pain? Why?
This is what Pitham died for. He died for droid rights, man.
So Hidden Pitham is
Getting it out of the way early.
the robot Jesus Christ. Then
I was gonna say the
Pretty
robot
much.
Moses, but that also works.
Listen, the only robot Jesus Christ is Hot Rod in Transformers the movie when he becomes Rodimus Primes.
I thought it was Ultra Magnus.
No, he dies. Well, he dies briefly, and then he gets better. He's all right.
Okay,
Babylon 5 did have souls.
that's
That
right.
is true. That is true.
So speaking of Arbra, they have this book that I think we've talked about, or it's referenced before, the Key of Rehobostar.
Yes.
Or Rehobostar, which is probably the way you pronounce it.
Hobostar.
The Key of Rehobostar. I think it's Rehobostar. Yeah. Which I think is.
I think that's from Starcrow.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Now I remember.
But I feel like that name Rehobostar is.
Robostar.
I tried Googling it, but I thought it was like a reference to something,
The
like some
Hobo
kind of
Star.
like grimoire or whatever. Because we have like the Keys of Solomon, right, and stuff like that. But anyways, someone might know the Hobo Star. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they go beyond the rim, and there's those guys with like little diamonds in their forehead that come and collect the souls, right?
Oh yeah, it is Starcrow.
Babylon 5. Yeah. So the Arbrans use this grimoire essentially to
The Hobostar.
I don't know what, like cast spells to. They did not know any of this, having acquired the ancient tome during their centuries-long search for a means by which to restore their dwindling power. But it kind of has like the opposite effect. We're told that within the grotto of Gorgodon, aglow with the spectral luminance of the clusters of aragonite crystals, they witnessed to their shock and horror the procreation of a spectral being of unwavering malevolence. This incorporeal entity was born of their perverse desires and iniquitous inclinations. They called it the Darker. So that's interesting that they realize that they can't enter the unseen realm because they're sullied, and basically, I don't think intentionally, but they double down on just being like tainted by using this evil spell book to summon this creature called the Darker. And then we get references to the Kushiban and all those other little creatures on page 661. Oh, we lost Ken. Can someone
It's taken by the darkness.
list the creatures?
Oh,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, some of the prose in here is like it just knocks you right off your feet.
It's awesome.
the starting with in the Empyrean Wars.
If it lists the creatures, then yes. I don't have it on my notes for some
Wait,
reason.
which creatures? I'm so sorry.
661,
Yeah.
like the Kushiban.
All right, I got you.
Yeah.
In the Empyrean Wars, it was assumed that the Lepi, Gerb, Ru, and Kushaban were non-sapient animals. Their
That's right.
intelligence
That's
helped
the one.
them evade predation and aid the allied races, lending them a trickster reputation amongst spacers.
Yeah. So suffice it to say, they are sapient.
Mhm. And one of them's a Jedi.
Yes. It says, prior to their departure, the Arbans consulted with the energy-eating telepathic Hujibs, who lived on the surface of Arbra, elucidating their wish to ensure the Darker did not escape. The custodians of Arbra would ensure that none ever released that terrible entity, and if he did escape, they would do what they must. So the Arbans left for the homeworlds of their besieged offspring. But again, delving into the parlous esoteric arts and prescribed mantras of the key of Rehobostar, they tried to return to their original state of innocence and again brought forth its antipode. But this time they unleashed upon themselves no single Darker, but an army of them. They would later be called Cacodemons. And we're told that although damage from the impact was blunted by the power of the Arbans, the attack nonetheless put the world, so the Cacodemons attack and put the world on a closer trajectory to its twin stars, resulting in destructive winds, evaporated oceans, and a massive dust cloud that blocked out the suns, which left many dead. The survivors were forced to relocate once more, this time to the dwarf galaxies, to see if they might yet find the Celestials. So these Arbans cannot catch a break.
Nope.
They screw up time and time again. And I wonder what becomes of the book of the Key of Rehobostar, right? Because clearly someone else is going to get it. But
Reminds me of the Evil Dead.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like, yeah, the Necronomicon, and then I just love how these ancient grimoires exist in this universe. It's like fan fiction bait. I just want to write a story about one of them.
Right? That's the whole book. Also, Dragon Age. I love Dragon Age. Oh my god. BioWare used to never stop being amazing. KOTOR, then Dragon Age, then Mass Effect.
I know you're a huge BioWare fan, as was I back in the day.
I love Dragon Age though.
And then
But yeah,
From
the
Software.
Golden City becoming Darkspawn, that's a whole other stream from another time. But
and yeah, actually,
good reference.
Speaking of, I mean, it's not really analogous, but speaking of From Software, like Dark Souls, there's the City of the Gods on Orlando, and how it's been basically the gods abdicate it. And but anyways, yeah. So this fall from grace is a recurring theme in supernatural encounters,
and in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So on page 662, we already talked about Arakan and the Reapers. So moving on to page 663, this is where Alex, the Toph reference came. We're talking about Arun, a race of aggressive Rosm shipbuilders, a number of the strange Faroon of Arun became obsessed with speed. And it says that one of them spent time on Malastair watching the races. I just love how that reads.
On Malastair. Very dangerous.
And then on page 663, it talks about the Toph. Does anyone want to read it says the Toph were a churlish paramilitary branch, that paragraph?
Sure.
I could do it.
Can you? I mean, you got it. He's got it. So
okay, go for it, Al.
Okay. The Toph were a churlish paramilitary branch of Terra 2's navy called the Terror of Fath, or Toph. So addicted had they become to augmentation drugs, particularly an experimental batch of Mahundal tinctures with crystalline salts, that they'd irrevocably altered their genetic structure, growing massive, while their skin took on a sickly green hue.
Sorry, pause there for a second. So they were human.
I'm a
They were
rock star.
humanish before, or humanoid before, and now they look like what they look like, I guess, in the Marvel comics, right? Because that's where they come from. The top. The Marvel comics is their first appearance.
Get your game
So
on,
I
go
think
play.
they are humans, right? Because they're from Terra 2.
Yes, that's why they look different. So I keep going from that. Those who survived.
Oh, there we go. Those who survived the changes became stronger, but also more belligerent. After being repelled off Chiyun, where they had committed several violent acts in an attempt to take over the world, they were court-martialed by the Terran Defense Force. Stealing a cruiser, they re-established themselves as raiders, going so far as identify with the fanciful and archaic pirates of old, all while calling in favors from their prior contacts to enable them to build a considerable enterprise. When this eventually drew the unwanted attention of the Galactic Union, they headed out to the far reaches of Fire Fist, where they could rebuild without the interference of the Union or the Terran Defense Force breathing down their necks.
And then we're told in the next paragraph, just very briefly, that they sailed forth to conquer Arun, Bree, and Nagi. I guess is the planet of the Nagai. And that kind of leads to the Toph Nagai War. It says, but these three worlds would later ally in secret with the Alliance of Free Planets and Mandalorian protectors to overthrow the Toph. And that's a reference to the Marvel Comics, the post-Return of the Jedi storyline.
Yeah, it kind of fell off for me there, where it's this whole great story with the Nagai, and then like these guys show up out of nowhere. But now I got context with supernatural encounters, but they just kind of pop up, and then they're the bad guys to last a little bit, and then the comic just ends. They show up, and then they're gone as quickly as they came.
And then chronologically next, we get Jedi Prince, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Bay was cool. He's a very anime character, though. If he's the one I'm thinking of. The friend of Han that we never heard about, and AC Crispin did not include in her books.
That's too bad. She was good. She was so good at weaving in continuity,
fault,
but yeah.
Or I think it was, but it was a minor thing, so it's okay.
Han has so many friends from back in the day. It's it's like,
well, you're supposed to be one of his best friends, and we just never hear of him, so it's crazy.
He's your best friend, Johnny. That's the room reference. Did you see footnote 171? There's a reference to this mutagenic serum used by Atha Prime in the Clone Wars.
Right.
That's cool.
That is cool.
And that's the sickly green hue that the Toph get. It's caused by that mutagenic serum. Before we move on to the next section, I thought I just want to know more. It says additional entries cut for time, as we said before, but I want to know all of them. I want all of them. Give me all the things. I don't care if Supernatural Encounters is another 1,000 pages.
Number one. If you had to choose one planet to know about their history during the Twilight Wars, what are you picking? Anybody?
Maybe Coruscant. Maybe, I don't know. Droman Kos. Maybe we will learn about it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Weirdly, I want to go with Manon. I don't know why, because I really don't like that planet.
You don't like the planet? What's wrong with the planet?
Like it. Well, the planet's fine. The missions in KOTOR. It's the horrible agony of having to play through Manon.
I love the freaking little zombie section. It was nice and spooky.
What's Dagobah doing right now?
It's vibing right now. The entire planet is vibing.
Dagobah's vibing.
Unbothered by the
smoking
chaos
right
going
now
on around it.
Dagobah's always unbothered, and that's why I love it there.
The other thing I wanted to talk about,
like the Rock Wizard.
Exactly, the Rock Wizard's vibing.
Not this
on Dagobah. Oh my god!
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Here, maybe I can. Here, hold on a
Shrek
second. Actually,
is a Toph. It's all part of the lore.
I was
Dog
trying so
game.
hard not to laugh.
I am going to pull up a picture of the Toph.
Just singing Smash Mouth while
Yeah.
I was trying to do this. I was trying so hard to hold in my laughter.
But one thing I wanted to talk about, which I thought was interesting, was there's a galactic union. Like there is a republic before the republic.
Yeah.
Does that bother anyone? I'm just curious. I'm not saying it
Not
bothers me,
really.
but I'm just curious.
No,
It-
Empire's rise and falls. So.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
There's
It doesn't necessarily bother me, especially if we get a little bit more elaboration on it later.
It
What
doesn't
bothers
sound
me?
the same, but
No, it's definitely not the same. This is actually more of a problem with like Dawn of the Jedi than it is with anything else. Is like everything has always existed. That was
Yeah,
my,
kind
that
of
was
like
my- that was-
yeah, it looks aesthetically the same as later eras. I think was an issue, right? But they wanted
Yeah.
to make it familiar to
especially
consumers.
Dawn of the
Yeah.
Jedi because it takes place long before Tales of the Jedi, which already has a drastic change from Tales of the Jedi to
Yeah.
KOTOR. So.
Right. That's
be
what I
fair-
thought Tales of the Jedi did really good was kind of showing, like, making it just seem so much more ancient, right?
so good.
But if we got comics based around supernatural encounters, we could also have that again because this is definitely way before modern day. So
I'm going to share a
think-
picture of the Toph. Sorry, go ahead. I'll
No,
wait.
to be fair, the Galactic Union, I like the idea of seeing the precursor to the Republic because there has to be
Yeah.
something. Like
That's
in
fair.
Enterprise, there's like a vague precursor to the Federation, right? So
That's fair.
it's nice to see.
Yeah, and then
Um,
there's like European, like Rome and Greece and stuff that were these big societies. So
Yeah.
it's like those came and went, and then now we have like the modern version. But you'll always have like just like the ego of humanity, specifically with the Galactic Republic being like, oh yes, we are the greatest iteration. We are the first to do this or that. So it's always like, and it's a primarily human like thing. So
Well,
I'll just refer to the Bible since Supernatural Encounters is the Bible of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And, there's the book of Ecclesiastes
Yeah.
where it specifically says there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's being done has been done before in some way, shape, or form. So the idea that there was some sort of government before the Republic is not a big deal because it probably just broke apart, just like it breaks apart in the prequels.
This is a
it
fair
exists for a
comment,
bit and then
too.
drops.
Everything's been done.
Yeah, this is a fair comment as well. Darth Sidious says
Theo
the Galactic
Bibble
Union-
mentioned.
That's right.
Yeah, it doesn't
Mm.
bother him. Yeah, CO Bibble mentioned. Actually,
So,
I'm my internet's been kind of spotty today. Who knows? I might have a communications disruption. So we'll see.
that can only mean one thing.
Yeah, in here first before, but you guys can carry the stream if I do.
Reason.
So, but yeah, one quick thing I wanted to say about the idea of like a galactic union and stuff like that. It doesn't really like bother me per se. It's just I don't know. It's like the Republic. We're probably sold itself as being the first galactic republic, and of course there were these precursor galactic federations that we talked about, and there's some archaeology now that suggests that prior, because all these cultures have a great flood myth and stuff like that, but prior to that there may have been an advanced civilization. By advanced I don't mean like flying cars and shit like that, but like advanced in the sense that like they had like plumbing and et cetera, like they were there was a legitimate ancient world civilization there that existed prior to the last ice age.
Sounds
there's like a Netflix series on it. Graham Hancock, who he's admittedly is a journalist, not an archaeologist, but brings in some theorists to talk about it and archaeologists like that. But this idea that there may have been a and this is like maybe where the Atlantis myth comes from and stuff like that, but like there may have been like a precursor civilization to what's commonly accepted, that being that civilization sprang up out of Mesopotamia and kind of spread out from there, right? So
it sounds very much like Assassin's Creed lore, where there's
Yeah.
race.
Yes,
and then
yes.
they kind of create humans to be slaves for them, and then the humans rise up and everything, and then there's this big extinction event, and then humans kind of become the dominant race on the planet and everything. So
Maxine's so based. She mentioned Assassin's Creed. I love Assassin's Creed.
I love Assassin's Creed.
I have to get going, but I will also say that there was a galactic empire during SWTOR.
That's true,
and
that bothered me. That bothered me a ton. But yeah,
and Sidious says during his speech in episode 3, the first galactic empire, which is obviously not true. And he even knows this because Darth Plagueis says he knows who Darth Vitiate is, so he knows he's full of BS. But that's more hidden knowledge. So I don't have too much problem with it. Since I won't be around for my favorite part of the book, which is or the favorite part of this section, which is disappointing. I just want to say, love that section. Everything with the Mortis stuff, with the son and everything. I will say the son and daughter, when you get there, they do a little bit of traveling and they both come back different. I really think I have something there with Jason and son being a kind of parallel there, but I'll have to save that for another time, maybe a recap before we get into the next section next time. But it was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to come back home, go to sleep, wake up tomorrow, work out, and hear the rest of your guys' thoughts. So,
for sure.
Thank you for having me.
If you join us next time, we'll let you take the stage for a bit and talk about that parallel.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, Alex.
Have a good night.
Okay, so before we move on to chapter 64, I'm going to share a picture of the Toph so that people have a fair representation of it. Wrong picture.
So jump
That's from last
scare.
night. There we go. That's the one. So they have
Oh
that
my
like
God.
view. Yeah.
He's literally just a green person.
Yeah.
Just a Grinch.
Yeah, they kind of have this like they look almost like pirates or Victorians or something. But here's
like, whoa.
This is maybe like the colors are not necessarily correct, but
okay, this
is the Toph, right?
Guys, I found one. I found one living amongst us.
Yeah. There you go. That's the Toph right there.
Wait.
How the Toph stole Christmas.
First image you showed looked like the main character in Roadhouse, but green. I don't know if you've seen Roadhouse.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Yes. Like whoever the main character is in Roadhouse, he looked like that, but green.
Green Swayze.
Green Patrick Swayze.
That's what they used to call
This
him.
is an interesting comment from Corey. It's worth noting that many pre-Republic civilizations in SE collapse or are conquered, driving them back to planetary level Dark Age. Yeah, and they forget. Like we were told that that people forgot about the Celestials. Actually, we're gonna talk a bit later about sort of that we have the scene where Luxos departs the galaxy, and I think it's in chapter 65. But,
yeah. Look, everybody forgot the Sith, and the Sith have been around forever. So
that's true. That's why they had to have their revenge.
Yeah.
So chapter 64, not 54. I keep mistaking it because now we're in like the high 60s. What did you guys think of this chapter? I thought it was awesome. This Jarrell story, the Warriors of Shadow. They're basically like They're precursors to Mandalorians, right? Because they're the Tong.
I thought it was pretty awesome. This like little chapter. A lot of cool stuff in there.
Yes. I thought the narrative was really cool. I'm gonna show a picture, and it's not Tom Selleck, I promise.
How do we know you're telling the truth?
Yeah. Before we get into it, actually, just to briefly describe, so chapter 64 is called Warriors of Shadow, which I believe is a reference. They were first introduced in the Unknown Region source book, and then later given name in another source. But these Warriors of Shadow are essentially a group of Tong, and as we know that the Tong at this point, they live on the planet Rune, I believe, right? that's where they retreated to after Notron. And the Sith have infiltrated a sect of the Tong in the region of Nime or Nimi. So we're told that the Sith Tong had grown considerably in their port city on the Rune Sea. And I just sort of an interesting aside. Footnote 173 says the word bantha originally referred to any large beast, which I thought was cool.
I love that. I actually have that was my longest note of this thing, of this session, I should say. It's such a great, that bothered me so much. I get bothered by really dumb things, as you probably already know. But the fact that everyone in the universe knows what a bantha is, everybody knows. You say bantha, like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. Like, really?
Well,
everybody knows what a bantha is. I like that. That's much better.
Yeah.
It used to be just a large beast. Bantha, sort of like Ohio, named after the river, not the other way around. Bantha, named after the word. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. They call Nat Skywalker, they call him Bantha. So
that's right, Bantha Rock.
I guess that makes sense because he's a big fellow. So he just kind of kicking ass. He's a large beast because he is a beast.
I love Nat Skywalker. I like him more than really any other Skywalker in that era.
Ooh.
Really?
Yeah, that's a hot take, but I do.
Yeah.
Wow. Even Kate?
Yeah, because he's a family man. He rejected the Jedi to just go and start like a family.
Yeah.
Wow.
With Drew, who's
I feel like Nat Skywalker is Anakin Skywalker done right. Like in the sense of what
Really?
in the sense of what Anakin wanted, like his goals and aspiration, right? Like he wanted a family with Padme, right? And so
yeah.
the fact that Nat actually is able to make it happen, I think, is really interesting. And I wish
Yeah.
that there would have been some additional stories telling us how that schism. I mean, it's not really a schism, but like how Nat and Cole went their separate ways, and I just really like it.
Yeah. Legacy of Edge will turn.
Yeah, I will. I'll read it one day. I'll get to.
Cole and Nat are in this book, but they're only kids.
I know you mentioned Abeloth earlier today, and I was like, what?
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
I think you might have mentioned in one of your stories too.
Yes, I did. Oh, it's so good. I was reading it at work today, and
that looks like an impressive tome.
My mind. This book is so good. I love it.
That's good.
Good.
So on page 665, if anyone will read that chapter that starts, "The Warriors of Shadow were led."
Can you want it?
I can do it.
Here we go. Max, you can go. I'll read the next paragraph after.
All right. The Warriors of Shadow were led by Jarell of Jodari, who was their most famous and respected member. Warning her inner circle to remain vigilant in all matters, she put on a placid expression as she went about the small city, taking particular interest in the social gatherings and cantinas which allowed her to slyly gather intel. These people are seemingly open and friendly, and perhaps it is only my imagination, but is there wary cautiousness behind their eyes? Are their smiles a little too broad? Is their solicitousness genuine or merely an effect? In her gut, she felt that something was off. The spiritual residue produced by this lost tribe held a kind of elusive odium that she didn't recognize or like. But since it was nothing overt, just a feeling, she kept her own counsel until she could confirm or deny her misgivings.
Yeah, so Jarell of Jader, I believe, is a reference to Jarell of Joyri, which is a character I think created by C.L. Moore in his it's him 1930s pulp stories. I'm gonna share a picture of her.
Oh no,
because
it's a woman, Catherine Lewis Moore, Lucille.
Oh, is it okay? So C.L. Moore is a woman. That's good to know. I'm glad to know that actually. Jarell of Jory. So she is. I was reading her Wikipedia page earlier today, and I mean it's Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt. But it says that she's called the world's first female sword and sorcery hero, and she's described as proud, tough, arrogant, and a beautiful ruler of her own domain. Her adventures continually involve her in dangerous brushes with the supernatural. So that's Jarell of Jory, who forms the I guess the inspiration for Jarell of Jader in our story, right? And I remember when Joe gave his space opera his space opera presentation at Legends Con. He talked about how Jarell was sort of the precursor and inspiration for Red Sonja, and would later be a proto precursor for a famous Star Wars character by the name of Mara Jade Skywalker.
Yay.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's awesome.
Maybe perhaps not explicitly so, but I mean, the parallels are there for all to see, right? Like you have a strong red-headed knight essentially, and what is Mara Jade but that, right? So
yeah.
I can see it.
It's an interesting comparison.
Yeah. So Jarell of Jader in our story, she is leading the Warriors of Shadow, and she has misgivings about these Tong from Naimi, right? We know that they're Sith.
Yes.
But the actual Tong on the planet don't know that. And so she starts talking to them, and we're told on page 665 that from everyone she interviewed over the course of the 10 days they were there, she gathered only that their history was either scant, unknown, or vague to them. The one thing Jarrell could discern was that they were not as charitable as they seemed. Their stated goal was to merge communities, and seeing as several of her people had already begun having intimate relations with them, intermarriage would be the driving force of that desired union. So, like, that's their tactic. They don't want to conquer these Sith. They want to infiltrate and assimilate the other communities into their community. It says, while this was not an evil or abnormal objective, her senses were practically screaming with alarm. Before it was too late and a rift could be driven between them, it was time to make known what she discovered. And she has, other warriors of shadow like Umla and Isra, right? And so she finds out that these other Tong have ships, which, if you know, I don't know if we're told at this point, but we're definitely told eventually in the narrative that the Tong are actually trapped on Rune. There's no Infinity Gate; it was destroyed. But these other Tong, these from Naimi, these Sith Tong, as we're calling them, have ships, and they're old but equipped with a hyperdrive, and it puts their story as a lost tribe into question, right? If they have these ships, and they didn't disclose that, so her scouts found this out on their own. So Jarrell addresses the warriors of shadow on page 666. We finally reach page 666, the number of the beast. So she says, I ask only that you consider that I have a good cause for mistrust. You must now choose between our mission and this so-called lost tribe, as they're branding themselves. There will be no dispute or rancor, whatever you decide. I have been called in a vision of the rune stone and must soon depart. Any who wishes can come with me, but I will not be returning to Rune. So she plans to leave. And she reveals her vision later on page 667. She says that she revealed to them her runestone vision in which she'd seen the weaving of the cloak of the Sith, the name of which puzzled her until she watched Sith fighting with Tong. There was confusion in this part of the vision, as some of the Sith looked like Tong and some of the Tong like Sith. That's foreshadowing. Above them all hung the rainbow-colored tail of a comet. The vision followed the winding path of the comet as it forged away through the treacherous nebula and beyond. So this cloak of the Sith, essentially, basically what it refers to is that this planet Rune is trapped in this veil or nebula or something like that. Cloak of the Sith was put around it.
Who puts it there too?
Who did put it there? I think was it the ones?
It was the sun.
The sun, right? So it was a one.
Yes.
Yes.
There's a Legacy of the Force connection here, or it might be just me reaching, but I'm really excited to talk about it because it's really cool. Well, for one, that moon in the rune system becomes what is Lumaya's base in Legacy of the Force, that Jason goes to in the first book with Ben and the other Jedi, Nalani. And it says, so where is it? Right here. Hold on one sec. Yeah, it says, the sun had weaved the cloak of the Sith around the system, while daughter whispered in the dreams of the priest to be wary of enemies who appear in the guise of friends. Okay, so for the longest time, Nalani was thinking that Jason was her friend, and then the entire time he's thinking of killing her, and he does kill her on that base too. In that moon, so in that area, I don't know if that's like me reaching, but it's like it was an enemy in the guise of a friend. You know?
What was her full name? It was like Nalani Din or something like that.
Din,
yeah. That was heartbreaking. She loved Jason.
Yeah,
it was like her hero.
They like trained together and everything. So it's just like enemies in the guise of friends, and Jason was exactly that for Nalani, and then he killed her. So I don't know if that was me just reaching, but there it is.
Yeah. And we're told on page 667 that the cloak of the Sith is essentially a hazardous nebula.
Yeah.
Several attempts to penetrate it had ended in tragedy.
Yeah.
Jarrell, though, I believe she with her warriors of shadow, the ones that decide to come with her, because there was a group of warriors that decided to stay with this with the Sith Tong, right? Because they intermarried at this point, or at least we're planning to.
Hmm.
Are we all in agreement? I don't know if it's explicitly stated, but the Warriors of Shadow are all women, right?
Yeah, I think
There's
they
kind of
are.
like a Valkyrie vibe to them or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I thought this was leading to like the because Tong, I was obviously assuming Mandalorians.
right.
We don't really get that, at least not yet. That's probably might be where it goes in the future, but not yet.
Yeah, I said Mandalorians originally, like initially, a few minutes ago, because that's the brand name recognition. Not many Star Wars fans know that the Tong were essentially the Mandalorians back in the day in the Legends timeline.
Yep.
So they commandeer one of these ships. It says they newly christened it Aranar. She left behind the secret of the comet for those to follow out of the cloak when the time was right. So essentially, this comet that she had in her vision is leading the way out of the cloak of the Sith. It's leading the way out of the nebula.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting. She engaged with like the hyperdrive. She called it the Isra Gate Drive. I guess because Isra helped reverse engineer it or help her figure out how to use it. But she's able to set coordinates. It says the coordinates set, they entered hyperspace. I'm going to read this part because this is a reference to, again, one of my favorite franchises of all time. It's not even really a franchise, it's more just a movie. Well, it's two movies, but I only really care for the one. Page 668. The Aranar emerged in the Tau Sakar system within the Abrion sector, and from there, Jarrell was led to land on Tau Rock, the third planet of the system. Shortly after disembarking, they were greeted by a mixed race of envoys from an Esseline colony who shared a similar story, having earlier departed Esseles. We've been expecting you, sisters. I am Rinthia, formerly of Esseles. With the aid of the noble Lord Arzak, whose mother revived an ancient line of defenders, we established Taurak as a center to renew the teachings of the Source. Come, you must be hungry and tired from your journey, and there is much to learn. The Lord Ozrock in question came up behind them with members of the Tarak. They were a formidable people of human lineage. The Warriors of Shadow reached for the hilts of their swords. They had not forgotten their ancient hatred of mankind, or the deeds that had been done to their people on Notron. But Jarrell held back. And then it kind of goes into, but Tarak, that's a reference, of course, to heavy metal, the Tarna, the Tarakian, who's the hero that comes and destroys Keiko, one of the immortal gods of the Sith, as not necessarily identified as such in heavy metal, but like that's the connection, right? The Warriors of Shadow meet up with and team up with these Esselines, and I think create the Tarakian race, which is I wonder if I can share. I think I've shared heavy metal before, but all right, let me see if I can share another picture of Tarna.
I've watched about 20 minutes of heavy metal at a party, so I need to sit down and just watch the whole thing at some point, maybe over the holidays. We'll see.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because so the diatham show up on page 669 and it goes into 670. It says the elusive diatham, terrifying and beautiful. The diatham are like angels, right? Essentially, like they that's why like the bad diatham live on Yago. Okay, descend before them, but the vision shifted. Yeah, unto a score of fields upon which vicious battles took place, and monstrous foes arose against whom they vied. This is not a life for the faint of heart. You must choose. And then, of course, the Warriors of Shadow had not lived soft lives, so they say, I choose, each in turn. Then let us together speak the pact, Rinthia directed. As one they recited, to defend is the pact until life's value has been taken for naught. Then the pact is to avenge. And that you see that in heavy metal. Like Tarna shows up, but like they call upon her to basically save the day, but they're all dead when she shows up, Tarna. And so she ends up just getting revenge at that point. Here's a picture of her in her scantily clad armor. But the interesting thing is that thing. The thing she's riding. So if you look on page at the bottom of page 669, It says, "Ride forth like the wind, fight proud the adversaries of light. For you are the defenders the Maker has sent." At that moment, a great flock emerged out of hyperspace to serve as their steeds. They were the pterodactyl-like Granger. And I'm like, is that what this is referring to? I mean, these things that they look like pterodactyls that they're riding, right?
Yeah.
So we see the initial, and I think Tarna is the last of the Terrakians, essentially. But we see the beginnings of them in this part, and I thought it was really, really interesting because I love heavy metal. So, and we're told in the millennia to come, many would they defeat as they traversed the universe, and many were the enemies they made. And as each passed on, so too was their strength passed down to a new protector, so that the power of evil might be contained for another generation. From them arose the adepts of the white current on far Thanium, known more commonly as the Falinasi.
Yep.
And of course, the Falinasi, I believe they made their debut, I want to say, in the Black Fleet Crisis, and then we later see them again in Fate of the Jedi.
Yep.
Fate of the Jedi, I mean, as much as I did not love it, what I will say about it is that it was good with bringing back elements of continuity from earlier eras, and Bantam and yeah. So I thought that was a real highlight of it. Yeah, Callista and the Falinasi. And Jo did the same with Bantam era stories, and I just love to see. This is why the expanded universe is so special to me, because it's like all these stories matter.
Yeah.
And Supernatural Encounters it's a perfect example of how all these stories matter. Even something as obscure as not really that obscure, but as obscure to the mainstream EU reader as the Marvel comics from the 70s.
Yeah.
All these stories matter, and they matter in so much more of a way than you ever anticipated if you actually read the text. So yeah, did anyone else like the heavy metal references, or am I the only crazy person that? Yeah,
I didn't get the heavy metal references, but I did like the passage.
Max, we're gonna do a heavy metal watch party one day.
Okay.
Not online, or else we're gonna get copyright stricken to hell. But on page 670, sort of back on Rune, we find out that there's 3 camps of Tong. It was by the time it was discovered that the Naimi were Sith, the Tong had splintered into 3 camps. There was the warriors of Naimi, the proud pure Tong made up of the Tong elders and all who stood with them, and the Neutran, who were as the Tongs of old and would not fight any of their brothers or sisters. Although ideologically divergent from the pure Tong, the Neutran remained friends and allies with them in their opposition of the warriors of Naimi. Yeah, that definitely won't be a PG stream. Yeah, heavy metal has a lot of nudity and sexual content in it. So
yeah, it's a hard R. It's a hard R movie.
It is indeed. We're told that the Neutran. Sorry, I keep mispronouncing their name, but they're the ones.
When you say Neutron, I just think of Jimmy Neutron.
Jimmy Neutron. Yeah, that's why I keep saying Neutron, because that's like in my head. But they're the ones who were entrusted with the secret passage of the Rainbow Comet from Jarrell. So they know the way out of Rune. They had not wanted to leave, and the pure Tong refused. So it was with reluctance that they prepped for departure, knowing that the runestone vision was at hand, and their world would soon become polluted by bloodshed and the execrable rites of the Sith. Which leads into page 671, the Battle of Tontum, as it's called. I want to say that here it says that the Demigo king confronted them, demanding what had been promised him. When the ministry of Naimi, so basically, I believe what happens is, if I recall this part correctly, because I read it like a week ago, but warriors of Naimi, the Sith, promised a certain amount of sacrifices to the Demigo king, and when they did not deliver, the leaders of Naimi, it's the ministry of Naimi, the Demigo king, it says, 9 bodies fell to the ground, their craniums hollowed out. Satisfied, the entity vanished through the door of the Deathwind corridor it had created, probably back to the charnel worlds. So essentially, they promised something for power, they didn't deliver, and they met their end.
Rip.
After the rest of the Naimi gathered their courage, they followed suit, not even bothering to bury the corpses. In the ancient ships that had first brought them to Rune, save for the one Jarrell had stolen long ago, They flew through the corridor where they soon rejoined the Sith in the yet ongoing Twilight Wars. The new Tran and Pure Tong, now united again, took to the ships that had over the centuries been outfitted with working hyperdrives at Isra Station. I guess that's why they call them the Isra Gate Drive. And followed the path of the Rainbow Comet, which, as Providence would have it, was just then passing along its annual journey. I love that how that sentence reads. As Providence would have it, was just then passing along its annual journey. And so they all leave Rune.
And so they leave.
They are gone.
And then I believe at that point we get to chapter 65. Is that correct?
Yep.
What's it called? Chapter 65?
Farewell.
Dance
to the
Macabre?
gods. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the whole chapter is farewell to the gods of Dark Illuthurian, and then the sub chapter is Dance Macabre.
Dance Macabre.
I jumped the gun there a little bit. That's the song that plays over a Dracula documentary I watched as a kid and I love. So every time I hear that song, I'm like, oh, Dracula, even though it has nothing to do with it.
This
So
is
here-
an exciting chapter.
Yes. Do we want to take a moment to pause and reflect on what we just read? Because now, I feel like for the rest of the stream, it's like breakneck speed. I liked chapter 64. I thought it was really interesting how we learned about Jirel of Jader, and it sets up the stories of the Tarakians and the Tong and how they later escape. And I think at that point, I'm not sure if it's mentioned, but they become nomads after they leave Rune.
That doesn't surprise me. I don't remember.
Or maybe I'm just misremembering. But in any event, chapter 65.
Let's go.
Gorog comes across Naigath in Eartha's orbit.
Yeah, so she finds the Waru crew chilling on Eartha in Illuthurion. She's like, "The hell you doing up in my stuff?"
He says to her, "Dark greetings, O spacious sister. I do not recall this world, though it seems familiar to one of the Earth worlds, but there are so many after all." And she says to him, "Max, do you want to read for
Oh yeah.
Gorog? Just the next line."
Yeah. Well met, audacious eremite. Ever my children seek out morsels, as you surely know.
I love how she calls him audacious eremite. I had to look up both those words, and audacious is like here, I have to look it up again. But eremite is essentially like a monk, right? Audacious is having a huge appetite, ravenous, excessively eager, and I think that's a perfect description of Uradril and his ilk, of which Naigath is a part, right?
Yes.
Here, we can keep this going. I'm going to read the line. "Dominion of the outside world does not belong to you alone, sister," Naigath said with a barely contained scorn, "but to all the surviving offspring of the architects, as granted us by the Eldritch Ones."
Would the kindred share the galaxy with the Devourer? As she asked pointedly.
Naigath hesitated. His silver coverings shimmered at the thought. "We would not."
Unlike Typhogem, our much mourned brother, he remains a threat. His cancer seeps out from his prison, and yet the elder races remain blind.
And so that's a reference to Ungal, yeah. And,
Mungle.
So they basically have this kind of cute exchange back and forth. And on page 673, I love how he says, "The kindred serve none but the kindred," at one point to her. Because she basically says, "Come and serve me," right? And he's like, no, he's not having it. It says, Naigath puffed out, "Even if the dread powers had not made us co-heirs of this expanse, we would not serve you. You may rule the night, but we are the god shamblers of the stars." I love that, god shamblers of the stars. Yeah.
Such a sick title.
Yeah. You speak of secrets, but long have you kept secret your stratagem for sole preeminence. So he's onto her. He knows that she wants to take over everything, right? "Why else did you not come to us for aid in conquering the galaxy beyond? Did you think we would not find out? Did you think you could keep us restrained in Illuthurion? Our wretched mother once thought to do so before we ruptured the dimensional wall and conquered vast regions of our own. So, go now. Take your virulent swarms to fight in that realm. To ensure your voracious equity, we will take possession of this world and whatever power you think to hide from us.
Ooh. Telling me to get lost.
Do you want
This
to
is
read,
our territory.
do you want to read the paragraph? Let's get Ken. I haven't heard from you in a while. It says on page 673, and it goes into 674, though she did not relish it.
Oh, man.
Though she did not relish it, she had long known that eventually her siblings and their brood would have to be dealt with. Thorogorot shot forth hundreds of viscous rope-like webs onto Nygath's argent shields. The entity was taken by surprise, but would dare assault him. As he turned to escape, the Night Queen pulled with all her might, snapping off his vengeful coverings. With his front exposed, she vented hundreds of paralyzing tendrils and venomous gossamers stronger than steel to enshroud Nygath's precious ones.
Yeah, and so she's basically ripping him apart. And he tries to eat her. So he tries to pull her in this black hole.
He pulls a Kirby.
Yeah,
He pulls a Kirby. And it says, as her sable bulk was drawn into his mouth, she came alarmingly close to being devoured whole. We're told that it was akin to the pull of a black hole. So like he could potentially consume her as she's trying to rip him apart. But
Waru would have done it.
Had it not been for the now frenzied disciples of the Night Spirit who flew in wrath to the aid of their beloved mistress, biting, rending, and tearing at Nygath's inner organs, she might then and there have perished. And then, Max, if you can read the next paragraph with a furious wrenching.
With a furious wrenching, Thargurugrat ripped apart her adversary's entrails, and as he convulsed, she snapped off the ebullient protuberance that served as his brain, leaving the remains of Nygath splashed open in contorting jerks. Thargurugrat commanded her attendants to eat away at all that remained. They hungrily obeyed her so that not a single trace of Nygath was left, save for his argent coverings, which she now took and buried.
But it was like... Yeah, go ahead, Al.
This is like when you take the meatloaf out, but you leave it in the pan, and everybody just goes in with their forks and just eat it.
And then you crumple the pan and you bury it in your backyard.
So we've lost our first member of the Waru crew. He's
I feel like Waru is going to be the only one remaining by the end of this book, but I'm terrified.
Wait, isn't there one when Hex goes there?
Oh, there are three of them. There's Waru, Uthakwan, and Uradril. So yeah, no, we're good.
So everybody's killing.
Yeah.
They just lose Nygath.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I forgot about that. You're right.
Poor guy.
They all come like dancing and shambling along.
Yeah, and Hextrophon's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, that's terrifying, right? Because they're all like trying to inveigle him.
I love that Waru just wanted to go home, though. He just wanted to do.
This is quite delicious irony. I did enjoy the pun, so.
I just like that Waru wanted to just go home. You know, like
I know,
guy, like
that's
he just wanted to go.
And so we're told it was too late, though. Nygath had already called out to Uradril, who, in the death throes of his duplicate, saw through his eyes and witnessed his sister's betrayal. So,
oh man,
yeah, there we go.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, yeah, there's more.
This is so good.
To end the first part of chapter 65, Gorog in the distance kind of sees this entity form in front of her and come towards her. And she thinks it's Wutsek returned from death.
It is. It is.
Is it Wutsek? I thought it was Horus.
It is.
No, it says Wutsek had returned from death.
Because we still hadn't.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this last time. We hadn't wrapped up the thing with the 5 hands of darkness or whatever, the cult from.
And they
that
did
one
say that it
Marvel.
was like a for now, like Wutsek.
Yeah.
Like they did prophesize. I said Wutsek would return. So like somehow Wutsek returned.
Somehow Wutsek returned.
And
Oh man.
Something tells me he
pulled
never left. We just thought he did.
Yeah.
I had
So
to
like,
guess.
you know, can a celestial like that, like really like die? You know?
Don't know.
Maybe not.
How can you
We'll
kill
see.
something that's deathless?
Yeah, it's like he was like
Well, yeah.
one of the original in the galaxy. It was like he was one of the original 4.
That's
So
right.
it's like he's like
Um,
the most powerful besides the Supreme Maker.
Yeah, I love that I know all 4 of those Celestials' names off by heart. Yeah.
Me too. It's so cool to like. I remember when we were like first starting, like looking at the picture, we were like, okay, so I think this is Luxos, I think this is Marutz, I think this is Urs, and this is Woodsack, and now we just know, like all of these characters, like we like learned, and now we just know them, like they're household names for us.
That's right. They're household names. That's exactly how I
Yeah.
describe it.
I mean, Waru's just always been a household name because he's Waru.
That's right. I should have worn my
I just
Waru
started
shirt
that
today.
book.
I'll
for
wear
the-
it. I'll
for
wear
the
it
record.
next time. What, you starting the
Oh,
Crystal
right.
Star?
I just started it. Well, not today. It would have been yesterday. Yeah, I just started it.
Hey,
Yes,
how's
I think I'm on-
Survivor's Quest going?
I finally finished. It's
Oh,
over.
you did. Wow. Okay, I thought you just gave
It's
up.
over.
So
No,
it's
it's over.
Waru time.
I even
Waru
finished
in
Fool's
time.
Bargain, which was painfully mid, and I did not want to finish, but I did. I finished.
Is that also
too.
that's also by
Gone.
Zahn, right? Fool's Bargain.
Yes, it's in the back of the book, and
Yeah.
I am an hour away in the audiobook from finishing Outbound Flight, which is way better for the record.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Outbound Flight. I really enjoyed that book. Again, as I say often, the best thing for me was that Joris Sabayoth was as insane, if not more so, than his clone. It's like, oh, that's not just a result of being going mad from the cloning procedure. He's just a dick.
Yeah, I love that. At first, I was like, that's weird," and then I was like, "Oh no, the way they treat him in, or the way they treat Jedi in Survivor's Quest, like, oh no, that makes sense." Also,
Well, like all the Jedi in the
very
prequel
well.
era, as they're coming up against Joris, they're like, oh yeah, he's just kind of that way. He's crusty. I'm like, how is this guy? How is this guy allowed to be a Jedi master? He barely contains his emotions. He has contempt for everybody.
This
Yeah.
is for once I'm with Alex on this one. This is one of those things where the Jedi are like, well, he's one of ours. It'll be all right. He just, he's just a little cranky.
I
It's
guess Mace
okay.
Windu is also pretty high-handed though when it comes.
Yeah,
down
but he's
to
not
it.
crazy.
He's not insane. Like,
Yeah.
was.
It's like
The moment Juris gets any power whatsoever, he is immediately abusing it. He's like telling people they can't decorate their house or their bar, rather. He's telling people, your kid is now my kid. This
And
is my child now.
I love because
I love
his Padawan. I mean, she's a knight at this point, but Lorana Jinsler is just like one of the most likable Jedi in the entire prequel era,
Oh yeah.
and like a true
Yeah.
Jedi in my opinion.
Does anyone remember? She reminds me a lot of.
But that was her
Jedi
master.
Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like this is one where it's like a Qui-Gon and Dooku, where they just turn out just
I was literally
Complete
just
opposites.
thinking
thousands of
that.
miles apart.
Yeah,
Like,
But
like Qui-Gon's the nice one.
yeah,
and the humble
Dooku is-
one, and Dooku's the
Dooku.
arrogant one, right?
Dooku's Dracula.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember in Shadowhunter I know she would be a Padawan, right? Lorana's really reminds me of her. I think Darsha Sant, maybe.
Darsha Sant, yeah, she
Another great character.
She was amazing. Darsha Sant, what's her master's name? I think it was like a Twi'lek, and he was really good at Master Bandara, Anun Bandara.
Yeah.
And he was like really,
Yes.
really, he was like one of their best lightsaber duelists, I think.
He like falls off a building or
Man,
something
they
like
say
that. Or no,
about
he
everybody
crashes.
in the prequel era.
Here, I'm gonna throw up a
I was
picture of Darsha Sant. I also think this picture. I remember reading Shadowhunter, and I think her lightsaber color is
Mine
wrong
next.
because I think she has a yellow lightsaber, but in this picture it's green.
Mm.
We have
Oh,
a
shit, mine.
Shadowhunter is on the reading list for 20.
Tales of the Jedi. Oh, it's so good, Max.
I have yet to read
It's
it.
it's a top 10 book for me in the EU.
Really?
I'm rereading
Yeah.
it probably starting tomorrow, to be honest. Once I finish Outbound Flight,
That's
I want to do
so
that, and then I
hard.
want to hit the
Sha-
mall comic.
Shadowhunter like just hits the pedal and accelerates and just never lets up. It's so good.
I love that
That's a
sequence when they're
cool
crossing the
art
bridge.
piece.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's such an. I love that art though. Where is that? Is that in
Coruscant, Bowels of Coruscant.
No. Where's the art from? Is that in? That's in one of the
Is
essential guides, right?
Yeah, it might be in one of the Essential Guide. It might be Jedi versus Sith, the Essential Guide to the Force, or it might
That's
be.
not freaking
Yeah, it probably is from there actually.
based.
anyway,
Putting up with Jorah
Sorry for
Sabath. Yeah, I agree. he's so insufferable. But like, I actually love that part of the book because I was like, this is such an unexpected turn of events.
It's nice to see a Jedi Master who is just the worst, who is like the embodiment of everything bad about the Jedi. You're like,
I
oh
feel
yeah,
like it would be also bad to have Anya Kuro as your master.
The
You
Dark
know?
Woman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she just like lets Aura Singh get captured and just go. She's like, oh yeah, it's the will of the Force. And then just, oh well, like.
there are a
And
lot of
she's always
prequel era
just, like,
Jedis that I would not want to be.
Yeah, she's such a pessimist too. It's just like her and Thom are like trapped into this rubble, and like Aayla Secura is coming to get them, and then they're like, "No, she's not coming. We're dead, Thom. We're dead." And I'm like, "Girl, shut up!" Like,
But did you
have
see?
some
Did you
faith.
read? Did you read the Tales story where she fights Darth Vader?
I
was her first
believe I
appearance,
did
right?
read that a while ago. I
Yeah, it
remember.
was really good.
Yeah, she
Um,
kind of like kicks his butt for a little while.
Yeah, but of course,
But
Vader
He's such
gets-
a pessimist, and I'm like, damn, I would not want to be her Padawan because she seems so like void of anything. Like she's
Well,
a cool
I mean,
character.
That's why she's the Dark
look where
Woman.
her
Yeah,
look where her latest Padawan ended up. It's Darth Krayt.
yeah. So it's like, what the hell?
Well, I didn't even realize that. I thought. Wait a second. I thought that Darth Krayt's Jedi Master was Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Well,
He had a few
For one
He had-
issue.
Yeah, he had Kiadi as well. Well, don't forget that
For-
Kiadi was Anakin's master at one point as well for like a month or something.
When Obi-Wan was missing and presumed dead.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm
He
your
loves
master."
abandoning his families,
Yeah.
his found families, his real family. He loves abandoning. He was like, all right, I get to leave.
Well,
It's awesome.
such is to be expected from a student of the Dark Woman, right?
Right.
So
Anyway, sorry about that.
So she sees Wootsek. I know that's a little small, the text, but Wootsek had returned from death. Wearied from her battle with Naigath, she again unleashed her Cinnabar death webs as the implacable revenant drew ever nearer. Her raging servants rushed to destroy this new threat as they had Naigath, only to find that his power was considerably more obdurate as he rained down a storm of pulsing firelight that scorched Thargoragrat and her irate armies. Few amongst the disciples of the Night Spirit escaped, and these were driven mad by the violent death of their beloved queen. As the Night Queen felt herself dying, destroyed as if by the supernatural light of day, she sent out a telepathic burst to all of her insect offspring and any adopted races that she'd imprinted on, imparting her power unto them, urging them to survive, hide, and protect their worlds. Thus the vast insectoid armies once more scurried off into seclusion. Feeling the death rattle of their mother at once, each of her eldest daughters declared herself the successor and rightful heir to the throne. This was, of course, challenged by the others, leading to the war within the great black nest of Ilithurion.
damn. So Wootsek I feel like he ran in there in Ilithurion and just killed Gorog, and then like that was it. He was done. You're like, all right, no. You know,
He did my pitch for a murder mystery where my pitch is you get 20 minutes of like seeing this guy and relating to his struggles or whatever, and then 20-minute mark comes, he's opening up his door and somebody behind him goes, hey, turns around, bam, shotgun. Now you have to follow his murder investigation. That's my pitch.
So I don't know if you guys have seen the first Avengers movie when Iron Man comes in while Captain America's fighting Loki, right? And then he like Shoot to Thrill is playing as he flies in.
Yeah.
I just pictured Wootsek flying in with AC/DC in the background, and he's just coming in and shooting lightning at Gorog and just incinerates her. And I was like, oh shit, there he is.
Yeah,
He
I guess
literally did the meme.
the reason why I thought it was Horless because in the next part, page 675 says, with the great Spider Queen out of the way, Horless began to hunt for the terrible creatures of Moragaram, who'd been roused by the disciples of the Night Spirit. And I know he's like the son of Wootsek, and so I was just like, for some reason, I thought it was like implying that Horless had killed her and therefore had moved on to now like lesser prey. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Wootsek had returned somehow.
Wootsek returns, murders Thargoragrat, leaves.
It doesn't explain further.
Mike doesn't
Not
explain the murder. What
elaborating.
a giga Chad.
For real.
So in page 675, the next part of chapter 65, we got the second battle of Endor.
Also, there's a really interesting like reference or Easter egg. I don't know if it was intentional, but when we get to it, I really want to talk to it. It's like right at the end. It's like wicked sort of light is where it ends. It's like this really interesting.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
Just point it out when we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially, Wischok, who is one of Gorog's daughters, has grown immense, as had her powers, which she eagerly now used against any and all adversaries she met. She was confronted by the Monitors, and the Monitors, of course, are who we talked about last time. They're the protectors of Lesser Tana, as it later becomes known, the Forest Moon of Endor.
The Forest Moon of Endor.
That was really good. So it's the Wizards of the Night Spirit that are basically still around with Wischok, and they're trying to assail Endor. But the Monitors went to battle with the Night Herald and his acolytes, coming upon them like 4 mighty blasts of ball lightning. No mere warlock could stand before them, and when the last of their numbers fell, Lord Soros fled back to Sarufur, content that he'd done his part. With the Night Queen dead, he would lie low and wait to see who of her daughters would emerge as victor. And with her, he would avenge his former mistress and rule the Expanse. So that's kind of an abridged, truncated version of what happened. But we're told that the Second Battle of Endor, although it's not described in nearly as much detail, interestingly enough, surpassed the first in gruesomeness. But Lesser Tana's protectors had been trained for this. They howled against the invaders as teeth and claws tore against the maddened wizards of the Night Spirit. But still, it was not enough. And we're introduced to a humble tribesman of the Ewoks named Adderhive. Came running forth calling for bodyguards. He had been discreetly communing with the Inder elders who'd entered the Sunstar and had finally received the answer to the question he'd asked: how do we banish the Wizards of the Night Spirit? So he travels, I believe, to, was it Morag's fortress?
Yes, it is.
Whoa.
It's ignoring the leering stone statue of the Windigon and the frozen sculpture of Morag. He began to chant the Yek Sirit runes. He knew he'd failed because nothing happened, but then he does it again, utter what he believed to be the correct formula, and he watched as the rift in the Endor gate opened up and sucks in the Wizards of the Night Spirit, so basically gets rid of them. The gate was then sealed behind them, and the Monitors made short work of those left behind. And we're told on, I believe, page 675, Adderhive the Jinn, in quotation marks.
That's
he was
on
now
678.
Oh, is it 678? Sorry, my bad. Was now nicknamed upon his appointment to a medicine man, later returned to the Forest of Thorns. So that's where he came from. So Adderhive the Jinn is a Tuckerization of Eddie Vander Heiden, I believe. I'm not sure if that's the correct pronunciation, but I wanted to show you a picture that Eddie got commissioned by one of the 2 artists of Supernatural Encounters, Guillaume Ducos, whom I had the pleasure of speaking with this past weekend, and is a wonderful, wonderful human being. Guillaume drew this piece of art, which is incredible. And this is not featured in Supernatural Encounters, the book itself.
So cool.
Eddie got it commissioned, and that's Adderhive, and that's him opening the Endor Rift, and you can see like these little demons in the background getting kind of like sucked back into it, right?
Wow, that's fantastic! I love that.
Right? Isn't it great? It's beautiful art, and Guillaume Ducos is so incredible, like ridiculously talented. It's just.
I love the art. I love the concept of this super metal magic Ewok just banishing these demons. He's the Ewok equivalent to the Doom Slayer. He's like,
yeah. One observation I wanted to make about the art is that Chris Cold is really, really good for those kind of almost like dream-like ethereal type pictures, because he has blurred lines when he draws in colors, and it's almost like impressionistic. Whereas Guillaume Ducos has very definite lines in his art, and just the colors are always warm and on point, and so I just like note now I think I'm able to flip through most of the pictures in the book and the art in the book and say like, this goes to Chris and this goes to Guillaume. And I was doing that with him when we spoke on over the weekend, and I was like, this is yours, right? He's like, yeah, it's mine. I was like, oh, I'm getting better at this. Because they do have very complementary styles, but I feel like I've lived with their art long enough that I know who's who now. So yeah, this is the piece that Eddie got commissioned from Guillaume, and it's Arhul the Jinn,
So awesome.
the hero of the Second Battle of Endor.
So, to go back to 675 because we kind of skipped over it.
Yeah.
So Wishchalk, we learn what happens to Wishchalk is Horlus comes down and he shrinks her to a tiny spider.
That's
and
right.
then-
I forgot to mention that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so he shrinks her down, and then she, enraged, she crawls off to find this cave, and which to spin her webs, and then it would take time, but she would grow once more slowly and surely as she feasted on tasty morsels who ventured too near her cave. And it says, but she would never attain to the fabulous immensity she had before. So in the 2017 Battlefront 2 video game, on the Endor map, there is a cave you can go in. And if you go kind of towards the center of the cave and you like look up, there is a little alcove that has a spider in it.
No.
Big spider. Big looking spider. Yeah. So and that obviously it's during the Battle of Endor. So there's a big spider surrounded by webs and everything in this little alcove up in the ceiling in this cave on this Endor map in the Battlefront 2 video game. And I noticed it immediately because I remember that Easter egg from the game, and I like when it came out. And it says for a fierce intruder would one day come to her lair wielding a wicked sword of light. And I don't know who they mean by that. I don't know. I mean, the only person I can think of with a sword of light going to Endor
Luke
was
Skywalker.
Luke.
Yeah.
And I don't know of any stories where Luke Skywalker fought a giant spider.
Maybe on his way to like give himself up, he's like, oh, let me see if I can take this shortcut. Goes up there like,
maybe.
All right, good.
But I mean, you can play as Luke Skywalker on that map, so it's like, but yeah, if you play Battlefront 2, the 2017 version, you go on the Endor map and you go in the cave and you find the little alcove in the ceiling, you will see the big spider in the ceiling, which I thought of this immediately when it said she went to a cave and she wouldn't get the big size that she had before. And this spider is big. By all means, it's very big in the Endor cave. So I was like, that's Wishchalk. So if you look it up, you can see or was Wishchalk.
Check that out.
I found a picture.
Let's take a look.
I found a picture.
So Horlus makes her tiny, and then just over those thousands of years, she grows to this big size. See, right up in there in Battlefront. Is that Battlefront 2015? It might be Battlefront 2015.
That's 2015.
Defend the Walker.
So so it's Battlefront 2015. My mistake. But
I guess that implies on his way to like get captured by the Imperials, Luke whacked this spider.
This spider, he probably went to the cave and he said, "Oh shit," and then just like cut her down.
Here's another picture of this spider on Endor.
Remember, Ben, when I killed the spider on Endor?
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's Wishchalk for you.
It might. Wow. I can't think of anything else it could be, right?
Yeah, so there's a cave, and like everybody knows, like in Battlefront, like in the community, like that's the spider cave. Like we all kind of
spider cave. The spider cave.
Yeah. So that I don't know.
Spider-Man be like, man, need one of those.
Yeah. Also, there's a really cool art piece.
Yeah.
Let
me see if actually let me pull the art piece because this is the second Battle of Endor you're speaking about, right?
Yes.
I will get it.
I think that also gives us a look at Lord Soros again.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Soros.
It does give us a look of Lord Soros, George Soros.
George Soros.
George Soros. Has anybody here played COD Zombies at all?
No.
Well, you know I.
Okay.
I'm not a big gamer.
There's a map in Black Ops 3 called Zetsuba no Shima, and there's a giant spider boss where you go in a cave. So I was thinking of that when I read that passage.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah.
I almost text in the group, be like, "Is this a reference to like an Ewok comic or something?"
No, it's a Battlefront reference.
What is that
yeah.
massive thing in the sky? Is that
Yeah.
Wishchalk?
That's
Looks
what
like
I'm
a giant
thinking.
like tree or something.
I think it's
No,
Wishchalk.
I think it might.
that's
be.
Wistrock.
Before she was shrunken down by Horless.
Yeah.
Wait.
So on the right hand side, holding that staff, that's Lord Soros, I believe.
Yes.
And then who's the guy on the left? Do you think?
I don't know.
Looks like a Sith goon or something.
Drank some
Maybe,
windows.
Who
one
knows
of the-
why?
One of the people of the night spirits.
Yeah,
Could
it could
The
be.
war-
Oh
then
yeah,
maybe
you're right.
the
There's those
wizard.
red dots or eyes. So
That, yeah, I think that's Wishchalk in this guy. Luke canonically drank some
wine.
Um,
Biddle's wine in your mind.
So does anyone want to read the two paragraphs? There's one longer one shorter one on page 679, over the long years, and then the one after it.
I shall do the first one.
Sure, you can read. Just do both of them. It's
All
all
right.
good. It thematically flows.
Over the long years, as memories faded into mist and new tribal leaders and their shamans came about who had less wisdom and even less interest in the history of their people. The tales took on a different character, a less honorable nature that makes history with superstition.
What's
As
with the old
tribe-
lady voice?
Don't know. As tribes fell into pantheism, they forgot their nobler heritage. I'm just trying to be like a crazy Ewok like scholar.
Yeah,
They
go for
forgot
it.
their noble heritage and legacy and no longer read from the scrolls, for which reason the trees began to speak to only the Woklings.
Walklings.
Oh, that comes up a lot in the cartoon. That's fun.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, doesn't Logray mention that like the Walklings can hear the trees best?
I think that's in the first episode where he's
Yeah.
like, only the Woklings can get to the hear
Yeah.
the trees or whatever. Yeah.
That's when
I don't know why he was
like-
having a heart attack in my voice.
And then I'll finish off the second one. So the Ewoks
wait.
also. Yeah,
that's,
go ahead.
That's during like doesn't like Tebow's little sister like they're getting their hoods for the first time
Yep.
and then they're like, oh no, like the trees are or there's something wrong and then they're like
There's a forest fire.
yeah, and Logray's like, oh yes, the Walklings can hear the trees
Yeah,
best.
Milani, I think.
There
her
she
name
is.
Milani
Yeah.
didn't.
So
Milani
Milani didn't. Milani, it's full circle. Milani, the Ewok Jedi. The Ewoks also grew haughty, treating their fellow protectors as lessers. It was in this way that they earned the antipathy of the Duloks, Garail, Jotnar, and other warrior tribes that had been just as instrumental in the defense of their moon. So that's how the Ewoks come to have this kind of warring relationship with the Duloks, because it's actually interesting to find out it was the Ewoks that did it, because they became so arrogant and forgot what happened in the past. And we see that time and time again. It's a recurring theme in Supernatural Encounters where people forget the past, and because they forget the past, they're either doomed to repeat it or they're doomed to make these mistakes that could be easily avoidable if they just remembered that these other races, like the Duloks, for instance, used to be their friends, their allies. And so, I mean, it's kind of sad, but that's Supernatural Encounters is not a happy book. It comes with a message of hope, but it's not a it's not a happy book.
Not a happy ending hope, more like for the future hope.
Yeah.
I love the idea of a haughty Ewok though, as a yum nub. That's funny to me. There's a lot of gags that are really funny in these couple chapters.
Yeah.
They made war against them and they failed. That's funny. Yeah.
We're also told that the Garail or Garail, the lizards, let me see if I can find a picture of them. They basically leave Endor, right? They restore a fleet of ships and they pick up and leave, and it's the ones that left behind became known as lizard warriors, but also the Yuzum went with them.
Yeah, Jiao Yaza. Some people went on to become singers.
So Interestingly, I couldn't find the Gariel, but it says Garl were a sentient species of long-lived scaled beings, and that's from a canon novel, Brotherhood, the one that's written by Mike Chen. Yeah, so I wonder if there's a connection there. I suspect perhaps, but yeah. And so that's chapter 65. So we had there was a lot of big things that happened there. We had the Second Battle of Endor, and even before that, we had the deaths of Naigath and Gorog.
Yep.
And so now the only surviving old one is Mingal. Oh, I guess Urdril, but
and
yeah.
Waru and Uther.
But Urdril's I feel like he's been diminished because Naigath is now dead, and he was the silver one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're just chilling. They're vibing, and they're gonna vibe. They're gonna outlive everyone.
What was Urdril's medal again?
They lost their John Lennon, or they lost their George Harrison rather.
Yes, he was platinum.
Okay.
They're gonna outlive everyone. They're like, we're just gonna mind our own business, and then they're like, all right, and then they just, and look at that, they outlived them all.
That's
well,
true.
I don't know the fate of Nally yet, so.
So now, friends, we are now here at unless there are any final thoughts on chapter 65.
Nope, I am ready.
No. We are now here at chapter 66, the Ardor of Outland's Sons. An interesting title.
In the words of Count Dooku, I've been looking forward to this.
So before we get into all the son, daughter, and father and the ones, it opens with the Osiarch. So those are the four celestials departing Sky River now. And it's really just like Luxos, because we're told that Luxos had sent Zurs back to the primary universe because they had a falling out. And likewise, he'd sundered from Maruts, from whom there had also been a deep disagreement, and neither would now speak to the other. So they're like the Beatles are broken up now.
That has happened so many times in this book.
I know. First it was with the architects, and now it's with their ostensibly their parents and uncles.
Yeah.
Right? So
the only group that's like stuck together has been the Waru crew. The Kindred have been the only ones who've stuck together.
That's why they're
That's
Kindred.
not even true anymore.
Yeah,
they lost Naigath. They lost their George Harrison.
They didn't like split. They were like, oh damn, like one of their people just died.
Was either George? Yeah. Was either Pete Best? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe Which one's the one that we forgot about and popped back up? I was like, oh right,
he's Uthaquan. I'm pretty sure
Uthaquan.
Maru is always just the main man.
But we're also told here that the wills would always remain and new defenders were arising. And I feel like that's like precursors to the Jedi Knights, right? But the last of the engines of defense, the Thoyor, would one day traverse the vast leagues of space to collect those attuned to the Force from numerous races who would study and grow and become the next guardians and protectors of the balance. So that, of course, we know they create the predecessors to the Jedi Knights on Tython. Interesting that we talked about this last time, but that the Thoyor, that shape, that monolith, is the same construct building as what encapsulates Mortis.
Yes.
And it makes sense because the ones create the Thoyor.
And they create Mortis.
It's like poetry.
It
rhymes.
Oh, damn.
So we're told in this paragraph that Luxos would leave the galaxy to others who might do better. He knew he would be forgotten by most. Sad. Already the galaxy was beginning to forget. They hadn't wanted to understand all that had happened to bring about the cosmic wars or accept culpability for their own diminished states. And so they rejected the truth for comforting lies promulgated as sophisticated and wise. In this way were the Celestials erased from history and the firstborn reduced to exotic aliens. Upon this foundation of falsehood had been constructed an additional intricate web of deceit regarding origins, dates, and events.
I
love that because also it explains like so many people viscerally reacted to the truths presented in supernatural encounters. I mean, people like in our world, in the fandom, because there's a lot of controversial thinking in this book, right? In terms of how it kind of challenges you to reimagine how Sky River was formed, that it was artificially constructed, and where races.
Example of that?
Sure, yeah. Tell me.
the character we love bringing up so much, Mungle, now, has never been presented in like the source book or whatever as a sentient like being or anything like. It's like a disease.
Yeah.
So it took like this one little element and has now made it so much more epic in scope, but made it
Right.
totally
Yeah.
different.
Perfect example of how it forces us to, I wouldn't say forces us, but again challenges us to reimagine
Yeah.
what we thought we knew.
I feel like it challenges us to rethink Star Wars as itself and its history and its whole lore and everything within it, even like the little bits of it, like down to like these little species, and pretty much down to the midichlorian, you know.
I think it gives it a grander purpose, like a
It
grander
does.
design. Yeah.
And I love that, and it also feels like this forbidden knowledge in a way, like.
I mean, it very much is.
Yeah, like I don't know about you guys, but like you'll see like more casual fans and stuff and like make videos about like this topic or that topic, and then just like you think to yourself, you're like, I know the origins of
Every time I open this book, I expect
Yeah.
like my room to just start warping. And
Yeah.
then the Cenobites are going to show up and be like, "We have sights to show you," and I'm
But
going to
no,
be taken.
I always go with them.
Yeah. You
I
always
always
yeah.
go with them.
Well, you don't have a
I'm
choice
like,
usually
"All right."
because the chains shoot out and just
Just
you know.
put
start-
you
yeah,
in.
Well,
yeah,
I'm ready.
yeah.
I got my hook. I got my hooks ready. I'm like, all right, take me. And they're
You're
like,
right, yeah.
But no, like
Maybe not.
I always do that. It's like I'll see someone post that they post something about like a certain location or some sort of character or something, and it feels like you have a bigger picture. Like it
Yeah.
feels like you have like like it feels like you have the truth about it. Like you know more. Like I know this sounds pompous, but like you just know more. You know the true history behind something. It's like when people like mainly nowadays, like with the release of this show that shall remain nameless, Abeloth has been kind of at the forefront as of late. And it's like people know like the baseline information. It's just like they skimmed Wikipedia or they watched a lore video where they don't know what they're talking about, and it's just a really out of context just skim of Wikipedia. And then like you get more of it in Fate of the Jedi, but like in this, it's like you know like the whole thing,
Right.
and it's so much cooler.
Yeah.
It's
What
nice
I will
that
say
all
is that
those
it.
Eckhart's ladder. Oh,
Yeah, I was going to say quickly to Max's point, like it's not pompous because the work is literally free to download.
Yeah,
for
it's
anyone.
there. Like go read it.
But people, sometimes reject what's right in front of them. So
Yeah, it reminds me of that meme where it's like they rejected Jesus because he told the truth, and it's like a meme. It's
from
like
the
a text
chick
bubble, and
tract.
they go, "Shut up!" Like,
Yeah, I've hit
Uh,
people with that before. I love
yeah.
that one.
Sorry, Al, I cut you off. What were you
Oh
going to
no,
say?
I was about to say it's nice that all those Eckhart's ladder videos that got me into the EU are now like totally obsolete. Like
Yeah, I
everyone
know,
on
right?
Now and Waru and I don't think he did one on Telotny, but I know he's done like a ton on Abeloth. They're like,
Yeah,
well, that was fun.
and I'm
But
like,
hey, now you get to remake them.
I watched this video the other day. It was like a power scaling of like people in the galaxy, and it was just like the Bedlam spirits was on there, and I'm like, do you even know like? And then they put like full potential Anakin above like the Bedlam spirits, and I'm like, Telotny would literally just snap and make him not exist anymore.
Oh, Child of the Long Summer.
I know.
Uh,
I'm just
the
like
fan-
I'm like Splendid App could just like roll back time and
The fandom really has made me hate Anakin so much more
oh,
than I used to.
I know. Like
I didn't like him to start. Like I've
he's
never liked Anakin in the
Really?
prequels, but,
That's
like
wow. I
yeah,
love
he's
Anakin.
he's a great character.
never liked Anakin.
Anakin Skywalker's a great
I mean,
character.
he's no Ben Quaternaro.
Yeah.
So,
He's no Ben
you are.
He's no
Look, he's no Floofy Rock.
Telotny
but-
throws the chosen one. Yeah.
exactly.
Down a volcano screaming. Yes, please.
Yeah. It's like Anakin's a great
Well,
character.
Al had to leave us.
Oh no!
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But no, Anakin's a great character, but the fandom just overhypes him so much to
Communications disruption
the
can
point
only
where
mean one
it's
thing.
like anyone could lose against Anakin.
Max,
Did
you're
it just
becoming a
lag there?
transformer. Yeah.
Is it good now?
Yeah, it's good now.
Say something.
Okay, so it's just like people are just like, oh, full potential Anakin this, full potential Anakin that, and I'm just like, no, that was a hypothetical. It always has been. He never reached it. That's the point. So it's like, I don't know. And then people are, I don't know. It's just like the Anakin fans are just seem like mainly just seem like for some reason like obsessed with child murder. It's just,
What?
because like the younglings and everything, it's like for example, like the
I want to
I'm
see
sorry,
full power Anakin like murder kids.
it's just like okay, so there's this. I don't
That's
know if you
funny.
guys have seen it.
Sorry
Like
to hear
this.
that.
Oh, Lance.
I'm sorry.
Stick
There's
around. We're going
actually-
to talk about Abeloth and the Mortis gods.
Yeah. So it's like there's this kid show that came out that's geared for kids, like about Jedi younglings during like the High Republic era. It's
I
geared
saw
for
it
like
on TV when I was
it's
at
geared
the
for like
Chinese restaurant the other day.
3-4-year-olds and everything. And mind you, it's like 200 years before Anakin even existed. And then like the comments on all of those things with on Instagram, it's all just filled with Anakin fans just igniting their lightsaber in front of the younglings. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then it's just like Star Wars Theory in particular, they're always just like, I want to see Anakin like killing younglings and killing Padawans. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's so weird. I don't know. Anakin fans, like, they're weird.
That's like weird backlash. Because in like the 2000s, I was like, oh my god, Anakin Skywalker is a child murderer. He's the worst character ever.
And now they idolize it.
True.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
it's
it's like
I don't get it.
the worst
Sorry,
back.
Lance.
It's the game. It's a thing where it's like it makes you think of the game, and then if you think of it, you've lost. It's really weird.
I don't understand. any of
It's
that.
I hated
stupid.
that.
It's stupid. My
You
friends do it to me all the
My
time.
friends did it to me in high school. It was
I don't know. Sorry, I had to go on an Anakin rant there. Anyway, let's get back to the really good
Yeah,
shit.
sorry about that.
Sure,
I
no.
think I may have
Get back to
rolled that
Arhul.
boulder down the hill.
No, it's all good. It's fine that you hate.
Oh,
him.
I'm so excited. Sorry,
Literally,
I'm
the
really excited.
Saga is about him, but that's cool. That's all good.
I love Darth Vader.
The Star Wars theory just well, yeah.
Huh?
Good.
All right, Lance. That's great.
So we find out that the son and the daughter become, I would say, unbalanced essentially over time, right? That the son, it says, both. Ifa, that being the son, gravitated towards the font of power, and Nifal drifted towards the pool of knowledge. Yet both seem unremittingly drained by the near constant galactic imbalance, so that in due course the differences between them magnified to the point that they were less paragons of balance and light to the galaxy, and more as avatars of black and white duality. Son turned world-weary and cynical, while daughter became sanctimonious and judgmental, and they began to resemble the extremes found on so many worlds. Father urged them to drink of the opposite waters exclusively, and this helped for a time, but the problem returned. For it was not the pool or fountain that was the problem, but something pernicious and unseen, though whether it came from within or without, they could not discern.
Yeah.
So,
And the daughter is definitely like very sanctimonious and very kind of. She is a little pompous, like in like the Clone Wars. Like, I don't know, like Anakin like saves her life, and she's like, "You can't touch me." And it's like you know, it's like it's forbidden for you to touch me, and she's just like, I don't know.
yeah.
Like she's good-hearted because she is like, you know, light side embodiment, but like she does kind of come off very sanctimonious, and obviously the son is the son. He's very cynical. That's just like how he's.
I feel like he's even worse at that point, right? In the,
he's just
Mortis
like
episodes,
full
he's,
on,
he's full on dark side. But this explains, because like I was thinking it was kind of maybe a contradiction in the sense that how they're portrayed, they're very much like, you know, the father's balance, and then there's the son who's dark and the daughter who's light.
Yeah.
But they're all celestials in supernatural encounters. And so I thought they were all portrayed as beings of balance. So I was like, how does it come to be that, you know, one is dark and one is light? And I think this does a very good job of kind of explaining that. How two extremes are not good at all.
Yeah. But we see how the son and the daughter become those extremes, and why they become that way, and why the father resembles balance later on.
Yeah. So basically nothing's really working here, and so they decide to go on journeys, each of them.
Yes.
A bit of soul searching. And we're told that the son plumbs the horrors of the hell worlds as an assassin. And the daughter goes to the sacred
Isoropia.
world of Isoropia, home of the shamanists who guarded the midichlorians that emanated from the wellspring of life.
Yeah, and the son returns with the Mortis dagger. So obviously he ran into whoever wielded it down there. And the last time we saw that was with he was the descendant of Starcrow.
Doretha, I forget his name. He was a Doretha, though.
Hold on.
Ken, why don't you, while Max looks that up, why don't you read on page 681, 682, the At Last.
All right.
I'll tell you when to
There we
stop.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Okay. What's his name?
Yeah, Xander Gora. He was
Xander
the-
Gora. That's it.
He,
Not
like,
Doretha.
Last
Yeah.
time we saw him in the Mortis dagger, he was attacking Telotny with it, and she poofed him away to the charnel worlds.
Yeah.
So
All right. At last, I drew some wretched being out of hiding. A servant called the Cold One, who nearly succeeded in stabbing me with this. Aoife brought forth the dagger of Mortis. Did he cut
Max.
you?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Sorry,
Yeah,
no,
Max.
no. Max, you can.
well, I'm gonna be you know who later. If someone
Okay,
wants to do
so-
the daughter.
Did he cut you? Nephal asked solicitously.
Only a nick.
Eligast held the weapon before him. And Al, why don't you do Eligast for us?
Oh, what page are we on?
Oh, okay, never mind. It is infused with evil magics, he says, but there is something more, a will. It echoes of those that gather strength in the Ganinga Gap, and wields a kind of pull, like a sweet melody that hides malicious implication, and ceaselessly plays in your head. So they're talking about, I think the Cold One would probably be a reference to Xander Gora, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. He probably
And-
morphed into some crazy being later on.
Yeah, and so this dagger of Mortis now hurt Ifa, the sun, because it could kill Celestials, and so he returns with that, and the daughter returns with something from Isoropia, an altar,
The
which
altar
later
of
became
Mortis.
later became known as the altar of Mortis. It was pyramidal and in some ways resembled Splendid App, though its color and face were different. So they both come back with items. They both come back not changed. They're still out of balance, I would say.
I feel like well, Alex has a whole rant on this, so we'll let him get into that. But like they might come back a little more like they do go to like opposite place. Like he was attracted obviously to like the dark parts of the universe, whereas she was attracted to more of like the light and life-giving parts of the universe, being like Isoropia and the Hell Worlds.
That's right.
Did you? Oh,
Hey.
oh, hey,
Yeah.
Santa
So,
sign.
So the father, not to be mistaken with Father Christmas, says, what you do not know that I have learned is that when one drinks of or bathes in the waters when one is imbalanced, it worsens the imbalance. For this reason, you must cease drinking from them and imbibe only the wellspring of balance until you are healed. But the wellspring gets destroyed.
Yeah,
They accidentally destroyed in their frustration. It seems in your anger you destroyed the wellspring of balance. So yeah, it was a terrible shock to them, and they immediately forgot what they'd been fighting over and resumed their Cephian forms. Interesting that they have I guess they do kind of look elf-like.
They do, because the father kind of has like pointy-ish ears.
And he's a little reddish.
Yeah.
So because the wellspring of balance has been destroyed, it was up to the father to maintain balance between his two offspring.
And now they only have the font of power and pool of knowledge to imbibe in now. So it's like that's how they eventually become like such like embodiments of dark and light, because those are the only ones that they have.
Yeah. So we're told on page 683. So it was that Father accepted into their lives a stranger.
Yes.
Max, do you want to read the next paragraph?
Sure. Where did you want me to read to?
She was. Let's read to just literally the next 4 paragraphs. She was, and all the way to like was meant to be.
Okay. She was as beautiful and as graceful as the Sephi of old, and appeared as light and gray as diathem. No, as light and gray as a diathem, yeah. Save that she had no memory of her past or even of her name, recalling only that she'd visited several worlds and had odd encounters upon them. Eligast encountered her on his journey, unable to detect any evil or deception in her. He concluded that Providence must have brought her from Milius Prime to his company. He parted from her only to inform Aepha and Nephal, not wishing to spring any surprises on them without first discussing it with them. He now invited her to stay on as a servant, and while this was disconcerting to them at first, it quickly proved to be a happy distraction from the endless struggles that beset them. There was something familiar about her, but none can place it, which made it as a beguiling mystery. Yet as she proved industrious, wise, and impartial in the handling of disputes, possessing a gentle touch and grace of nature, she soon came to be beloved by the ones. The only things forbidden her were the waters of the font of power and the pool of knowledge. For Father explained that they had been sanctified only for them, but she had no interest in anything but the well-being of the family and had happily conceded. Ere long, she became Father's wife and came to be known as mother to son and daughter. In the sunny years that followed, the family were hale and whole. That the galaxy seemed to have a measure of peace was taken as a sign by all that it was meant to be.
Well, here we have it. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Brennan.
What's up, Brennan?
Yeah, I just put it on, man. You just we're all doing good. So Eligast realizes, I think at this point, that the son is akin to the embodiment of power. The daughter is embodiment of wisdom. It's like, if I am justice, then the mother is embodiment of love. And are these not the 4 main embodiments of the Supreme Maker? You know, it's not the 4 main attributes of the Supreme Maker. So that's the realization that he comes to as he's because he marries the mother, right? And or at least becomes his wife. I don't know what kind of ceremony they would have
I don't think.
had, but in any event, lazing under a rainbow eucalyptus with his wife, these are the realizations that he comes to. Good night, don't let the Abeloth bite. Yeah.
With all those teeth.
You're definitely getting an infection. You are getting an infection.
So on page 684, Lady Bragley, the shamaness of the wills, comes to Vitae, the planet that they're on. Which Vitae, I think, would be like what the
life?
Like, well, Vitae, because it's the diphthong, it might be like of life or something like that. Or
And I believe
as opposed to Mortis,
Vitae would be the planet upon which she resides.
It is, yeah. Joe mentions in his endnotes that it didn't have a name. It's just called Abeloth's planet, but he decided to call it Vitae as kind of like the mirror of Mortis, right? And that's described later on in the text. Yeah,
I like.
It makes sense. Yeah, because Mortis would be like the Latin word for death, right? Or
it's cool.
I've always wondered why is it called Mortis, and that's okay.
But I've like reading Fate of the Jedi. Like I hated how they just called it Abeloth's world, and I'm like, give it a name, damn it! Like, and like even on like the Wook and everything, they're just like, oh, they journeyed to Abeloth's world, and I'm just like, no, it's Vitae.
Lame.
I know it's lame. I'm like, update that.
Common Wikipedia L.
Yeah, big time.
There's a reference on page 684 to the Transurani, mad celestials who have lost their memories. I looked this up because I was like, what's this word? It might be a reference to a Lee Brackett story. Of course, we recall Lee Brackett is in addition to writing a whole bunch of like pulp weird fiction stories, Outlaw of Mars and those stories in the Scathe trilogy in the 1930s or 40s. She also wrote the first draft of Empire Strikes Back script.
Based.
Yeah, and then she passed away, unfortunately, before she could do any further work on it. But Lady Braggley, she says to, I think she has a conversation with the ones, and she basically says, like, you don't see it, but something's wrong here. Something is not right. And I think Ifa gets frustrated with her, and she snaps back at him. She says, and what does one touched by the shadow know of prophecy?
Oof.
I thought that was great, that line. But she basically says, like, she says, because they think maybe the mother is a diatham. And she's like, send the stranger back to the moons of Iego, and if indeed she is a lost diatham, they will recognize her. So the reason why Lady Braggley comes to the Vitae is because she's there to restore the wellspring of balance. But she later kind of comes to the conclusion, like, I will not. She's like, no, I do not think I will arm this realm with yet another source of power, because she doesn't trust the mother. Essentially, the taint of darkness has already taken hold, though you all refuse to see it. This wound is one that no amount of water can heal. Heed my counsel and abandon these material forms. Return to your original realm. Only then will the dagger and the three of you be truly safe. So Corey says, that's long been a pet peeve of mine. As part of the Atlas Project, Joe was generous enough to give names to a few unnamed planets, and that has been bugging me. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, this is why we love the expanding universe, because we want to know what these things are and what they're called.
It's like in Darth Bane, they finally give a name to Rakata Prime, or just the unknown world, I think it's called in KOTOR. They call it Lehon.
Yeah, Lehon.
Great name.
I just want to bring this up. So Lady Braggley says, I know, she started. I came to restore the wellspring of balance so that you might be restored, but I see now that the balance yet tilts to one side or the other, and only the ultimate chosen one can restore it. So I know we talked about this in our group chat, but like, who do you think that is? The ultimate chosen one?
I think it's a person. Okay, so this is my theory. What is in the group chat? A person that we do not yet know. Yeah. Because Star Wars is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And so my theory is that this person or persons, maybe the chosen one is a chosen two, a dyad, if you will, has not yet been born. And because when we talk about like sort of the end times and this, the good times to come, essentially, right, the Great Restoration, as it's called, I think that Great Restoration applies not just to Sky River Galaxy, but to the Prime Universe as well, to basically everything in existence. And therefore,
did you start lagging?
Am I still with you?
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Good?
Yep.
See, I was the Father of Shadows was trying to block my transmission. But essentially, that's my theory. So I think it's someone that we don't yet know. But I want to hear everybody else's theory on this.
I know we talked about this a bit, but like the last one we know that like really like ends like conflict is Cade.
Cade
like
Skywalker, yeah.
Is Cade Skywalker. It's definitely not Anakin Skywalker, because there's other chosen ones after that, like Luke, Leia, and Jason, and Jaina and Alana.
Alana, yeah.
Yeah. So like the last one we know of, like, and I'd imagine that these chosen ones like must all be force sensitive. So it's like if you think back to Cosmo Hender, and he was a chosen one for sure. And then the Orax, I believe, the Crystal Rider, like gave a part of herself to him and his lineage. So like those would be like natural chosen ones, which we see with Anakin and Luke and that bloodline.
Yeah.
Well, like it makes sense that like Cade would be one of them, and like, but I mean there is Sith after Cade, but we just didn't get to see it. It's like Anya Solo is technically the last one to defeat a Sith in the timeline, but she's not force sensitive, and she kills him with a sniper rifle. So like it's hard to say, but like Cade is like he defeats the final evil that is Darth Krayt, and then like, but who knows? Because Darth Nihil and Darth Talon are still out there, and then obviously, as we know from Legacy 2, there's still a whole bunch more Sith, and then like they get into this big fight with the Imperial Knights and everything. So it's really weird to think about. It's like maybe it's someone, as you said, that we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
So
I think it has to be. I think it has to be somebody we haven't met yet, because to me, the final chosen one has to end conflict. And once you do that, the story's over. We're all going to space heaven now. So
I don't know. It's a really, I remember when we talked about the chosen one before, like when we mentioned the prophecy, like back in like book 3 or something. This is like a very interesting conversation, because there's like I usually wasn't prone to the like idea of multiple chosen ones, but now I am, because it makes sense, because like Anakin dies, like obviously he brings balance in that time, in that like time period, like he kills Palpatine, but then Palpatine comes back, obviously, but like Luke and Leia are chosen ones of their time, and like Jason's the chosen one of like the Yuzan Vong War, where he ends the whole thing, and sorry, Al. We talked about
we even see that with the Terrakians, right? How like Tarna is the chosen one of her time to help fight, I guess call him Keiko, right? But like so like there's recurring chosen ones that are called one in their time to restore goodness or balance, right?
Yeah. And like,
I so much prefer
as Stephen King calls it, the white. He restored their agents of the white.
And then Cosmo Hinder was his chosen one of that time, and then Jaina was eventually the chosen one to stop Kaidos. She was like the only one who could do it. Not even Luke could do it, because he was afraid he was gonna turn to the dark side. And then obviously we know like Alana would be the chosen one of her time.
Yeah.
So like I used to like hate that notion, because like I don't know why I did, but now I think it's a fascinating, because it's like different heroes are called upon in different eras to like use their abilities and use their status to make a difference in that era, and to stop evil, because evil will always come back, and there will always be people to oppose evil.
That's right.
And I love that.
That's what keeps the balance, right?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I'm kind of in the opposite direction of you, Max. Where I still really love the idea of multiple chosen ones, but that's because I've never liked the idea of the chosen one.
Yeah.
Going back to even as a kid, I was like, the chosen one. Lame. Multiple chosen ones. Constantly like refreshing the cycle until the final chosen one. I like that. That's better.
Ken, how about you?
It's more interesting.
You have anything to add to this?
I think that I like the idea of multiple chosen ones, but like here's the thing: is like for all we know, we will never know, because it's gonna be a bit meta. But the EU never got continued, so we'll never
still
know
looking for its chosen one.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go with Cade, but at the same time, like you guys were saying, there could be a final chosen one in a different era. So
it's like chronologically, the final chosen one is Cade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and hey, maybe like, I know Legacy's End, the Hand of Thrawn series, is supposed to like serve as an ending to the expanded universe. So it's like, I'll keep you guys updated on what happens in that. But Cade is a big star in that, and so is Anya, and so is Marasiah. So it's like maybe it's like the kind of culmination of those bloodlines that become the final chosen one. Because it's like, if you really think about it, it's like that's where it all started, was like Hender and Paxton Solo and Antonia Corelli, and then like they become the Solo Skywalker clan. So it's like Marasiah and Anya are both from the Solo clan, and obviously Cade being from the Skywalker family. So it's like maybe it's like the union of those two bloodlines.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a really interesting topic to think about, but I love this.
I love that idea of the union of those two bloodlines, though. Anyways, that's just,
it started out that way.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me.
It's like poetry; it rhymes, right?
Yeah. So there's a prophecy that we're told on page 686. I think it was actually referenced before, but
yes.
What is the prophecy of Dark Illithurian? She who was born to chaos shall give birth to chaos. So that's the prophecy. But we're told, like, sort of later on that, like, basically Lady Braggley leaves. They don't intend to really do anything about the mother because this is also rant incoming. I'm just going to warn you, because she's going to grow old and die.
Yeah.
Mother was none of the celestials and thus mortal. And while the waters of power and knowledge would preserve alive the ones, she could not drink of them. And even for son and daughter, the waters held risks. So let me just say, this was the rant. When I first heard that Abeloth or Belot was Telotni's daughter, before I even read this book, I was like, I do not like that. I do not like that retcon. That upsets me. I don't think it makes sense, because Abeloth was a mortal and she should always have been immortal, and it was a better narrative device, and etc. But now that I read it in context, and this is again, if you don't like the way something sounds, just read and see how it works. And it works because, for all intents and purposes, she thinks she's immortal, but the reality is she probably wouldn't have been able to survive if she had drank from the pool drank from the font and bathed in the pool if she was immortal. Like, wasn't there that Sith Lord from the Lost Tribe who drank from the font?
And he like went crazy.
Yeah.
He went crazy, right? And so and he's a force user. Yeah, he's a force user, right? So just imagine, like, so she really I mean, she kind of goes like a little loopier. Anyways, long story short.
They try and get Luke and Jason to bathe in the pool of knowledge and drink from the font of power constantly, and like, the guides, like the mind walkers, and they're like obviously out to get them. So it's just like these things would kill them if they were mortal. That's because they're just these really powerful force nexuses that were only meant for the father, son, and daughter.
That's right.
They were built for them specifically.
That's right. So oh, sorry, Granny, I totally missed this message. To go off on the Chosen One thing. Chosen One is dependent on the people it's chosen for. Every culture could have an eventual chosen one for their cause, even for evil. The Sith are, well, that's a good point too.
I like that.
They have that.
Whatever dilutes the Chosen One thing.
Yeah, there's a Sith Ari for different eras too. Like Bane was a Sith Ari of his time, and Palpatine was like the Sith Ari of his time, and Crate for his time.
Indeed. So the mother grows old.
Yeah.
It says that a strange voice within her starts saying, like, you're being abandoned, like they could give you immortality like they have, and they're not doing it. Why are they doing that?
And she's like wondering, she's like, if the father's not going to save her, then she has to do it herself. And then she's thinking like, oh, well, how can he carry on these burdens without me? Right. How is he supposed to control son and daughter without her?
And there's an interesting little bit here, how it says that on page 687, how like this actually drove son and daughter even further apart from the father, because the son never forgave him for this and would henceforth accuse Eligast of choosing law over love, and thus fed the brooding despondency within him. The daughter also held it against father, judging him as less wise and compassionate than she had thought him to be, that she would have been. And this fed the lofty arrogance within her. So the fact that he kind of refused to take any action to save the mother, whom they all loved, further drove them to their extremes.
Yeah, and we definitely see the like hostility that son has towards father in the Clone Wars. Like, he's always like freaking out on him and hitting him with force lightning and telling him he hates him and everything. So it's like there's always he definitely doesn't like him.
So what does what does the mother do? She
do it. There it is. Look at it. Oh my god, it's so cool.
Sick.
She drinks. She drinks from the font of power and bathes in the pool of knowledge.
Oh my god, I love it. So I remember I discovered this before Supernatural Encounters came out. And before I was like so like invested, and I saw this art and I was like, this is amazing. It's like, it's so freaky and it's so eerie, and I love it because it's just like these ancient beings, like just like seeing the birth of this unnatural like entity, and I love it. Like look at the the smoke in the background and the gnarled trees and everything.
Let me this is one of my favorite pieces of art. This is by Chris Cole, I believe, this piece of
It's
art.
beautiful. It is my
so-
favorite Star Wars art piece ever.
Yeah, let me read. It's so chilling. It's so eldritch and Lovecraftian. But let me read for
So
you.
cool.
The water from the font of power was delicious beyond anything she'd previously tasted. Sweet, like the tamarind pod that grows only in the spring in the whispering arbor of Pelsinore. At once, it restored her youth and vigor. At the same time, it awoke something else in her, a great and wondrous strength that she'd never before known, but which seemed somehow familiar. But it was the bitter waters from the pool of knowledge that told her who she really was. And so now she knows. Now she knows that she is Belot, the daughter of Telotni. Hands down, one of the best. Yeah, I know. Right?
I love Fate of the Jedi, man. This is so cool.
Right? Like the art in here is just astounding. It's
Oh,
new
yeah.
EU. So now she wonders whether or not the ones knew who she was the entire time. And so we're told when Elagast arrived and saw what she'd done, he stood as one stricken and colorless as the marble statues in the gardens of Amytis. Maybe that's where he gets his like pale pallor from this. But like, look, they are kind of stricken when they see her,
Yeah.
right? But then he thought, I did not break the law, and yet she drank. We can be together. But he was arrested by the look she now bore. It was like one who'd first tasted great sorrow. And then she asks him, did you know who I was or who I am? And he says he assures her he didn't. He did not know who she was. He says he fell in love with her in earnest, for which a reason he asked her to be his wife. And then, Max, can you read this next part? It's page 688, where she reveals her identity. She says, you asked this in ignorance, and so I forgive you.
Okay. You asked this in ignorance, and so I forgive you. My name is Belot, daughter of the great architect Telani, the queen of air and darkness, worshipped throughout the ages as the goddess and by a host of other names. In the death throes of my poor mother, condemned by a celestial, the spirit of Telani became imbued in me. Then, smiling broadly, she declared, I am the chosen one you've been waiting for all these years, the prophesied one of old. I have come to succeed the Celestials as the sovereign of the stars.
I love it. That's just crazy.
She's so
That's
cool.
awesome.
I love Abeloth.
Sovereign of the Stars. That's such a great title.
Sovereign of the Stars is such a great title.
That's my new title. Yep,
The
that's
beloved
mine.
Love that.
queen.
Can you skip a paragraph and read the next one? There is much.
Yeah. There is much that has not yet been revealed to me, she responded, deep in thought. She felt consoled now that she knew her family hadn't plotted against her, but merely acted out of ignorance. Still, she would need their pledge, for she did not believe the remaining Celestials would readily give up their power to her. I know your people rejected her. One of them turned her into something hideous. Her father, how awful! So I too am a Celestial. There is much I must learn, and much we must discuss for when I stake my claim. From this time forward, the waters of wisdom and power will be shared by us all. We will at last be a true family, and the galaxy will be made to learn balance.
The galaxy will be made to learn balance.
Ooh.
Wow. After Belot went off to drink more of the waters of knowledge and meditate on the received memories of her mother unfolding in her mind, Elagast regaled everything that had transpired to Ifa and Nifal.
Ooh.
Like that. That's another smiling friends scene where Mr. Plinkett's character sitting in the background is like, all right, we can't help this guy. We should just leave now.
Can we zoom in on Abeloth in the picture?
Can we? Maybe. Is this? Tell me if it's zooming in.
Oh,
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Look at her.
their eyes.
And you can see like the
Oh.
silver,
Scrolling
yeah,
out.
like the silver eyes, right?
I love it so much. And look at you can see kind of the creepy smile under there too.
she was told her Doritos and ham sandwich were ready, so she's getting out of the pool.
That was me getting out of bed.
Marcel, you getting Orphan of Cost vibes from this?
Yes.
Oh,
Or as some say Cosm.
Cosm, yeah.
This art is so cool. Oh my god,
This
I
is
need it on my wall.
So the father realizes what must be done at this point. He says he had failed. The prophecy had come to pass, right? Then, just for reference, that prophecy was she who was born to chaos shall give birth to chaos. And here we have chaos embodied, right? The sovereign of the stars. He did not have the luxury to grieve, for there was too much yet to do. So he said the truth no one wanted to hear, and this is on page 689. She told me herself after imbibing the waters of the fountain. She had become young again and powerful. She believes it is her birthright, as it was her mother's, to rule the galaxy. We cannot allow this. And then they have a bit of a debate about this, the father and the son and the daughter. And he says, have you so soon forgotten the cosmic wars, the third of which yet rages? That is what the sovereignty of Telotny wrought. Belot has herself said that she is but a manifestation of the architect. Her mother's spirit lives in her. So, for good reasons, they feel that they must get rid of Telotny, Abeloth, right? Because Belot, yeah, as she is currently known, because she basically is her mother's daughter at this point, has the spirit of Telotny inside of her, and they expect that she will bring chaos to the galaxy if she's allowed to I guess to live, right? But I don't know that any of them can bring themselves to kill her because they all love her, right? She was the mother. She started off as her servant and became the mother. So what do? They trap her. They trap her on Vitae.
Should we read the
Yeah, why don't you read actually let's get Ken. Do you mind reading the first two paragraphs? It starts with great alacrity on page 692.
Sure. All right. With great alacrity, they hastened through the interdimensional gate to Ouroboros. Elagaste destroyed the gate behind them, weeping quietly as he abandoned his beloved. This act pained him more than anything that had come before or would come later, and it was said that even after, he bore the countenance of one who was weathered and racked by too many years and too much grief.
Ifa and Nefal praised the Killiks of all that had transpired. The precursors wasted no time. With the knowledge that Belot was Telotny's seed, they used Kularalak to move the stars and planets to create another sealed region, a hidden prison for her. That's the Maw, right? The Maw cluster.
And that they used Kalora, whatever is that center point station. That was the name that they had for it.
Later, the Killiks would rename Belot in their tongue, the Vain Evil One.
Ooh.
And so, why don't we finish it off here? I don't know who wants to read The Ones Retreated to Mortis.
I want to read the very last paragraph that goes from while she yet lived.
Okay. So I'll read this first one, then I'll hand it over to you for the next one.
Okay.
The Ones retreated to Mortis, upon which they would know only regret. Though the Ones did their best to make their world an alluring one, it was never the same as Vitae, and always it felt empty and forlorn. As Vitae was our home of love and life, Ifa intoned, so was Mortis appropriately named, for it is our place of death and sorrow. The Celestials surrounded it with a protective monolith so that it could always move around the galaxy, and never be found nor used for evil. The dagger and altar came to rest there for a time. I love that for a time because it's like they're no longer there potentially, but they might be. I don't know. But we know that I guess the altar is. But
the altar should be.
Yeah. But that's why it's in a Thoyor pyramidal structure, right? So it can move around the galaxy. What's for it.
Funny is that it is the place of their death. It says the place of death and sorrow, and they all die there eventually. And then the dagger is there last as we know it, but as we know at the end of Fate of the Jedi, like Luke sends out his quest knights to go look for it, and they never got the answer on that. Which actually we might get it in this, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know if it links up to Mortis.
Well, she is in this book. Abeloth is back. She's in this book. and she's kicking ass.
One thing I will say, I saw your Instagram stories. One thing I will say is just to kind of give Alex's some spotlight, because I know he really wants to talk about this. But Alex pointed out earlier how like we talked about how at least Alex and I felt that those TCW episodes with the Mortis gods were kind of surface level deep.
Yeah.
Like they appeared deeper than they were, but this gives it so much more significance for me and just makes them make sense. That's why I love this work, because it just makes things make more sense.
This almost makes
Brady,
me enjoy. This almost makes me enjoy. I mean, I can't enjoy the episodes themselves because I just don't like them. But this makes me appreciate the characters more, at least.
Yeah.
And definitely more of like the building around it. But yeah.
All right. So I'll read this.
Yeah. While she yet lived, go for it.
While yet she lived, Belot would never see her family again. The words Elagast had left for her, uttered in Pelsinore by a whispering pine, said only this: "We cannot express to you the depths of our sorrow at what we must now do in departing from before you. For we love you still, and always will, but never could we consent to allow Chelotny, who opened the door for evil to enter the galaxy, or her seed into which her spirit resides, to lay claim to a realm that we have sworn to protect. Forgive me. Perhaps one day after the restoration has come, we will see one another again." For a long time afterwards, Belot wept as she listened to his voice before drinking again at the font in the pool, so that while her power increased, so too did these waters become saturated with grief and tainted by bitterness. Enervated by her own misery and troubled by the memories of her mother's betrayal and loss, she wandered bereft and alone in the gardens of Amethyst and despaired at the whispering arbor. But they whispered no more, and she tended no longer to the dragon's blood trees, and ever she strayed closer to the shores of madness, until the day came when she met the one whom her mother called the demon. And I want to just say,
that was amazing.
It says, so too did the waters become saturated with grief and tainted by bitterness, and that makes sense for how the font and the pool of knowledge and like the lake of apparitions are portrayed in the Fate of the Jedi books, because like Luke and Ben mentioned how there's like this weird like sulfury type like smell about it, and like this kind of haze around it, and
that's right. It looks polluted.
Yeah, it looks like polluted water, and it's Belot's misery. It's all of her misery and just her feelings just in these waters, just tainted by her bitter misery and her grief.
That's heartbreaking.
And like the plants, like she like on Vitae in the books, she controls the plants and she controls all of the plant life on that planet, and that makes sense obviously, because she's like, they say she tended to the plants and everything. And so for like thousands of years, she's sitting there just drinking from the font of power and bathing in the pool of knowledge and just continuously gaining power and continuously getting more and more grotesque.
Yeah. Let me ask you really cool. Two questions.
Yeah.
What's the demon referencing?
That I'm pretty sure is Woodsec.
Okay.
But we'll find out.
Number 2. Do we feel sorry for Belot?
I already did reading Fate of the Jedi.
Because I mean, she gains knowledge and she wants to go out there and conquer like her mother did.
Yeah.
So do we really feel sorry for her?
Family. She just wants her family. Okay. So in Fate of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But like, I always just thought of it this way. It's just like in Fate of the Jedi, she just wants to be called beautiful, and she just wants her family. She just wants anything resembling family. Like they mention this cold neediness that you can sense about her, and I feel so bad because I'm like, damn, girl, like, you know, and like
that's why she keeps inhabiting Luke's ex-girlfriends.
Yeah, and she, you know, the Skywalkers are kind of like, you know, like fulcrums in this galaxy.
They need a mother to replace Mara. She's gone, right?
Yeah, and then like in Fate of the Jedi, like she tries to get Ben and Vess to be son and daughter. Like, but instead, you know, Ben is representing the light, and Vess is representing the dark, and then
Yeah,
she
it's like a
just
switch.
says, yeah, and she's just like, oh well, I'll take up the role of balance then, you know, since
Huh.
father's not here.
Yeah.
But like reading this, it makes you feel for her so much more because she's just sad. She's just sitting on this world. She can't leave, and she's just depressed. She's just sitting here, like left to wallow in her misery the entire time for thousands of years. You know,
Yeah.
not even the plants would whisper to her anymore. So, like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
The plants only speak to the walklings now.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Can only talk to the walklings.
Yeah.
The only
so-
thing it's just that I'm confused about. In Fate of the Jedi, it's just like they mentioned that like Abeloth like beat the crap out of the ones before like they left. And I don't know if that's just like the Killick hive mind being muddy and really kind of inconsistent and really unreliable. But like and that maybe being a different time where they fight again. But who knows? And it's like it's weird. Like this stuff I'm kind of touchy about because like I'm super defensive of Fate of the Jedi and its stories. So it's just like I'm a little. I mean, I don't mind now that she's like an offspring of Talani, but I do kind of like more that she was just this grotesque being that was born out of like a need to help her family, which I mean, I guess it was in a way here, but like in Fate of the Jedi, it's described that she was like, she wanted the power to help stop them fighting. She wanted to like in the midst of it, like what was happening was that like the son and the daughter were fighting and, you know, father was struggling to keep them together. And she was like, I need to do something. I need to help. I feel helpless. So she ran by herself I just hit myself in the glasses. She ran by herself and got this power in the hopes that she could help her family. And I guess that's still kind of true here. And then by mistake, she becomes Abeloth as we know her. And then from that, she like her family is disgusted with her and they're like, and they sense this great darkness within her and they're
Right.
like, oh my God. And then
Right.
they start fighting her.
Right.
And then she has to defend herself. So I feel like that's also really heartbreaking where her family just turns on her and she,
Right.
you know, and they desert her in that way and they attack her so that they're provoked to violence to her. And like, they leave her there obviously. And then they have to fight her over time. And then she, like, they realize that they are no match for her. And, you know, so they leave and they trap her there. So like, I don't know how I feel about it. This is like my most controversial thing. As like the resident Abeloth and Fate of the Jedi like fangirl, like this is stuff that I was really kind of hesitant on. I really love how it's written, and I really love the story. But like I don't know how I feel about it yet. Like sometimes I feel good about it. I'm like, hell yeah, like this stuff is really great. But I feel like in a way the Talatni mom thing kind of like a little bit like decreases its like impact for me in a way. And like
Yeah.
and it I love it though. I love both interpretations of the story. So like if you take this as your interpretation, that's great. But I feel like the way it's portrayed in Fate of the Jedi is like more in line what I would think about it and like how I choose to imagine it. And again, that's the thing with supernatural encounters is that you don't have to take it. Like you can cherry pick what you want. It's like
Right.
this is something that like I think I might have to kind of cherry pick out that I don't really accept.
Right.
But I don't know.
Although we do know that Belot is by all appearances mortal. I mean, she grew old.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think just the Talatni being her mom thing is like I think it's great, and I was like super like in it, and I still am, but like I don't know. I just think back to how it is portrayed in Fate of the Jedi, and like I don't know.
Yeah,
It is
it's
like
cool.
two of your favorite characters coming together. To be fair,
Yeah.
but is that really what you want?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love Tlotny and I love Abeloth, but like I love this idea that Abeloth wasn't a celestial. I love this idea where she was just this grotesque being that was formed through an accident and a need to help her family, you know?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like she was messing with power she didn't understand.
Yeah,
You know?
I totally get where you're coming from. I think that does have a stronger emotional impact.
Yeah. I don't know, but I love
But you're
this.
still a heretic, and we're branding you as such.
I'm so sorry.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No,
Somebody
I
get
love
the
how
wood.
it's-
We're gonna build a pyre.
I love how it's portrayed in Supernatural Encounters. I think it's spectacular, honestly. And I'm honestly on board with both, but I think I prefer the Fate of the Jedi interpretation, but I love both, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Fair.
And for largely it's mostly the same. You know? It
Yeah.
largely is the same. She is still mortal. She still gets messed up by these, you know, the font of power and pool of knowledge.
They just don't have a fight.
Yeah, there's just no like conflict there. Like that was already happening. Like it just kind of happened. Like instead of like her being pushed to this extreme to like to help them. You know,
Right.
It was just kind of she was like, oh yeah, like why don't I do this? Like you know, he needs me. I'll go and do this. So it's just like I don't know. I like it, and it is largely the same outside of like obviously there's not a fight going on when she does it, and there's not a fight afterwards when she becomes that Abeloth, and then there's obviously she's Tlotny's offspring, which it's great. I love all of this, and as I said, I like both of these interpretations, but I think for me, like I prefer the Fate of the Jedi one. I don't know. I'm ranting.
No. This is why we're doing this.
Yeah, no, I just I'm really passionate about this part, and like Joe writes it phenomenally. But like, and there's so many I love about this.
Look at this.
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
I especially love that the waters were tainted by her sorrow and her bitterness. I think that's spectacular, and that I definitely will take as why those waters are so nasty. So that's definitely coming with me to my headcanon.
For sure.
But yeah, so yeah.
Does anyone else have any? No.
I just went off.
No, that you had to. This is your time to shine.
This is my territory.
This is the Max moment.
Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for, and I'm
sure.
here.
Al, Ken, anything to add to that, or any opposing
I have not
views?
read Fate of the Jedi, so I have no connection to Abeloth.
Y'all know I'm so passionate about that series, so
I guess I'll hold off till the closing statements for what I have to say.
Oh, we're in closing statements.
Are we ready to do that? All right.
Yeah, we're into it.
I'm so sorry.
No, we've reached the end of our material for today.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just go off now. First two chapters read, great stuff. We talked about that. I think it shows a lot more talent to make me, at least, I can't say for anyone, to make me engage with something that I passionately despise, which are those episodes. I know I keep talking about, but like I do. I really don't like those episodes. They bother me so much. The designs, the story, just everything about them. To make me engage with those characters and like feel for them and enjoy the story told with them. I think that's a lot. That says a lot more about Joe's writing ability than something that I liked beforehand, like the thing with the Sith Beast, which I brought up to my brother-in-law over the weekend, and he was impressed by that. For the record, I just wanted everyone to know he was impressed by the Sith Beast retcon. Anyway,
Okay,
I think that says a lot more, that he can make something good out of something bad.
Yeah.
I haven't read Fate of the Jedi, so I don't know how that's done.
I think you'll have a even better appreciation like after Fate of the
Well, I felt that way just to
Maybe.
riff off of you. I felt that way. I'll give my own thoughts. I felt that way with Dark Nest.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's subjective. I consider it bad, but like, I felt like this gave a lot more context for it, such that I'm interested and I would dare say even excited to go back and read it with this in mind. So we'll see.
New eyes.
Ken, how about you? Any parting thoughts?
Ooh. Okay. I think I like this more than the original stuff for Abeloth and Fate.
Really? I
Yeah.
did not expect that. That was a big plot twist for me.
There's something about the way Joe writes. It like
Maybe I'm just biased to
gnaws me in. Yeah. And you know what? Like this whole chapter, it feels like a Shakespearean tragedy to me.
Yeah.
An Abeloth story.
It does have that kind of gravitas to it.
Yeah. It's really damn good.
Yeah, I mean, I really have nothing to add beyond what you've all said. I really enjoyed chapter 66. It's probably one of my favorite chapters in the book, with Dejarik and
ooh, that one was so good.
and the one we talked about last time. So, I mean, I think that it just like keeps getting better and better, this book, as we delve further into book 6. And as I said, we're going to taking it a bit slow with book 6. We're going to be probably covering less pages, but making sure that we deep dive into them. And so the streams might be shorter, but it just means that we'll have more episodes of Super Lit out there.
There you go.
Just want to thank everybody again. Thank my co-readers and Alex as well, who was here earlier. I want to thank everybody in the comments who showed up to talk to us and chat about supernatural encounters and other things with us. And I want to.
Sorry. No, I also just want to say, like, I know like all of like the writers and like Joe himself like watches this, like don't get it twisted. Like I loved this stuff, like chapter 66 and the Abeloth stuff. So like don't think for a second I didn't absolutely love it. It's just I do prefer I do prefer my Fate of the Jedi.
You don't have to justify your opinion.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, just don't think that I didn't love it, because I really did. But for me, it's just the Fate of the Jedi interpretation of it is my favorite. But anyway,
you like it. It's all good.
One more
so
thing.
Go ahead.
I feel like everyone's had their big moment in this series now.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Like I think like everyone was like had their thing, like
big moment to talk about. Yeah, like
mine was like
heavy metal. Yours is Abeloth finds Yautja and Xenomorphs, and then
what was Marcel's? Was that like the Ewok stuff?
The heavy metal stuff.
Oh, the heavy metal stuff. The Battlestar Galactica.
Al,
oh yeah,
it was the Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, Al was what those raccoon people called? What are they called?
The Scandits. The Scandits. The 8 billion
400 octillion Scandits versus one rock wizard.
This is right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I know that's how Max operates. Okay, so just want to again thank everybody for coming. I wanted to just mention that we're going to be off next week. We're going to resume. We're going to resume the week after, likely with the next few chapters leading into Interlude 3.
Yep.
And I wanted to wish everybody that watches this happy holidays. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Yes.
So the next stream will most likely be the Thursday, the January 4th.
Likely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or that week for sure. The 3rd to the 4th. Yeah.
So the next time we see you guys will be in 2024.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Yes.
Hope everybody has a prosperous holiday.
Yes.
And we will get our Chewies out of here. Goodbye, everybody.
Cool. Bye.
Peace.